Chapter 1465. This voice was very familiar to Wang Sheng because it was very unique. Anyone who heard it once would never forget it. However, Wang Sheng couldn't believe his ears. Why would this person appear here at this time? Moreover, under the double detection of his 9 symbolic words and the combat consciousness puppet, Wang Sheng hadn't discovered him until he was within 500 feet. This was simply impossible. However, when that person walked out, Wang Sheng saw that it was really that person. The last bit of hope in Wang Sheng's heart disappeared. He just sat on the ground and let out a long sigh. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. Lin Xiao was taking care of Aki. Before Wang Sheng made his move, he had already put Aki down. At this moment, when he saw the figure appear, he looked over in surprise. It wasn't just one person coming out, but 2. Further away, the combat consciousness puppet had already alerted them. There were at least 20 experts slowly making their way in this direction. From their posture, it seemed like they were just following behind the 2 people and waiting to serve them. Although Uncle Li was injured and sitting on the ground, when he heard that person's words, he turned his head angrily. He wanted to see who on earth could say such a thing. However, what he saw was a pretty little girl. Even in the dense forest of the land of Thousand Despair, the little girl's clothes were not wrinkled at all. It was as if she was in the courtyard where she usually lived. Beside the little girl was an outrageously beautiful man. He was as gentle as jade and had a gentle smile on his face. He was simply a modest gentleman. His body was also clean and tidy. Nothing in the land of Thousand Despair had stained his body at all. "Who are you?" Uncle Li's expression changed drastically. He had only noticed these 2 people at such a close distance. It was obvious that their cultivation was definitely not inferior to his. However, this young man and the little girl were simply beyond his imagination. "Who are you?" The 2 people who appeared glanced at Uncle Li contemptuously before turning to look at Wang Sheng. The little girl bowed to Wang Sheng and greeted Wang Sheng with a smile. "Greetings, Duke Changsheng." The young man next to him also cupped his hands towards Wang Sheng. "Brother Wang, long time no see." "Long time no see." Wang Sheng smiled bitterly and cupped his hands. "Brother Liu Miss Ling." These 2 people were the owner of the Imperial Treasury, LV Wenho, and his personal maid, Miss Ling. It was not strange that LV Wenho's appearance had not changed in the past few years. What was surprising was that the little beauty Linger's appearance and figure had always maintained the petite appearance of a few years ago. She still had the image of a little girl who had not grown up. At this point, if Wang Sheng still couldn't see that the 2 of them were experts with unique skills, then Wang Sheng would be blind. Only an expert of Uncle Li's level would be able to detect Wang Sheng within 500 feet. In other words, LV Wenho and Linger were at least epic experts. Linger looked like a little girl, but she was definitely not as young as she looked. Perhaps it was because of her cultivation, or perhaps it was some kind of elixir, but she had deceived many people for many years. LV Wenho and Linger didn't seem to care about Uncle Li. They only cared about chatting with Wang Sheng. How could the proud Uncle Li bear it? However, Uncle Li was not a fool. He knew that he could not show off at this time. He just quietly endured and tried to recover. Just now, he was caught off guard by Wang Sheng's primordial returning hand. He could not get up for a while, but after a while, he recovered. At the end of the day, Uncle Li was still an epic expert. Wang Sheng could injure him, but he couldn't fatally injure him. He was still injured, but it could no longer affect his movements. The sudden appearance of 2 indescribable enemies made Uncle Li more nervous than ever. He had just suffered a fierce blow from Wang Sheng. When his injury recovered, Uncle Li immediately returned to his arrogant character. Although the 2 of them had appeared very suddenly, and their cultivation levels were definitely not low, Uncle Li was confident that he could kill these 2 arrogant fellows. Such young people who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth were arrogant, because they had just entered a brand new realm. They were dead meat. Before Wang Sheng and LV Wenho could say anything, Uncle Li slowly stood up and laughed sinisterly. "So you're on the same side. No wonder Duke Changsheng is so fearless." As soon as he said that, LV Wenho was stunned. Linger also had an indescribable expression on her face. She looked at Uncle Li as if she was looking at an idiot. "We're not on the same side." Wang Sheng found a comfortable position and said with a smile. He teased Uncle Li. What's with that look? It doesn't matter if you're on the same side or not. Uncle Li slowly moved his hands and feet. With a great enemy in front of him, he no longer dared to be careless. He said with a sinister smile, You're dead today. LV Wenho had already covered his face, as if Uncle Li's performance made him lose face. Brother LV doesn't seem surprised at all. Wang Sheng looked at LV Wenho and asked with a smile. It's all thanks to Brother Wang. LV Wenho smiled and raised his hand. The binoculars that Wang Sheng sold to LV Wenho appeared in his hand. Brother Wang's binoculars are indeed powerful. They can see clearly from a few miles away. Although Wang Sheng still maintained a smile on his face, his heart sank. LV Wenho held the binoculars. With such a high cultivation level, he probably saw many things. It was not only the battle between him and Uncle Li. He might have also seen the scene of Lin Xiao killing those experts from the 8 great families. Lady's godly skill, I'm very impressed. Sure enough, just as Wang Sheng's worry appeared, LV Wenho cupped his hands towards Lin Xiao. Not only did he cup his hands, but he even bowed down. He was extremely polite. Young Mistress Ling who had always been unconvinced when she saw Wang Sheng, also obediently followed LV Wenho and bowed to Lin Xiao. Her attitude changed as if she was a different person. Uncle Li had said some harsh words over there, but in the end, the few people here actually paid attention to him. Uncle Li immediately flew into a rage. Pretentious! Uncle Li muttered to himself in a low voice. He roared, You're courting death. Following his voice, Uncle Li's figure exploded and shot towards Ling who was closest to him. The one who teased him at the beginning was this little girl. If he had to kill someone, he would kill her first. Young Mistress Ling O's expression turned cold. With a speed faster than Uncle Li's, she directly turned into a beam of light and charged towards Uncle Li. Seeing a ribbon-like figure circling around Uncle Li like a ghost, Uncle Li's dashing figure suddenly stopped, and he stood still on the spot. Ling Er's figure also returned to her original position. You are Chung. Uncle Li's stiff throat squeezed out word by word. He only said 3 words and could not continue. With a thud, he directly fell to the ground. In the blink of an eye, blood flowed all over the ground. Chapter 1466. This scene gave Wang Sheng a huge fright. The dignified epic expert, Uncle Li, could not even last 1 round against Miss Linga. Although Uncle Li was injured first, he was still an epic expert. How strong was Linger's combat strength? Wang Sheng did not dare to imagine. Lin Xiao did not care at all. She just watched quietly as if Linger's performance was just a performance and was not worth making a fuss about. 5 years ago, the 2 of you entered the glacier basin. Lin Xiao said to LV Wenho and Linger calmly. However, the 2 of you were very cautious and not as arrogant as those people. You stayed in there for 3 days and took a few essence souls before leaving. It seems like those essence souls were of great help to the 2 of you. Thank you, Senior. LV Wenho and Linger's pupils constricted. LV Wenho bowed to Lin Xiao again and thanked her respectfully. To be able to describe their whereabouts so clearly, it was obvious that she had been paying attention to them. Not setting up a stumbling block for them was already helping them, so it was only right to thank her. What did Uncle Li mean by the last 3 words? Wang Sheng interrupted. The 3 words "you're the city" could easily make people think of many things. Wang Sheng did not want to think of what Uncle Li wanted to say, so he urgently wanted to know the truth. It's what you think. LV Wenho turned to Wang Sheng with the same gentle smile and amiable attitude. That idiot only realized this until he died. It's very embarrassing. Are you really the carefree city lord? Wang Sheng finally asked his question. He had experienced too many unimaginable things in the past few days, but LV Wenho's identity still shocked Wang Sheng. I'm the real deal, LV Wenho replied with a bitter smile. That guy just said that we were on the same side, but he couldn't even tell who was on the same side and who was the enemy. It's really embarrassing. When Uncle Li questioned him like that, LV Wenho had an embarrassed expression. So that was the case. If Wang Sheng was Marquis LV Wenho, he would also feel ashamed. Lu Wenho's identity as the worryless city lord was really well protected. Other than the people around Lu Wenho, only Wang Sheng and Lin Ling knew his secret. Even Aki probably didn't know. Wang Sheng recalled that the worry-free city lord had never appeared in front of anyone before. Even an important figure like Wang Sheng would only interact with the city lord's mansion's butler when he came into contact with the carefree city lord. He had never come into contact with the carefree city lord himself. There were one or two opportunities to appear as the carefree city lord. For example, during one of Wang Sheng's auctions, no one had seen the carefree city lord. However, LV Wenho had personally attended those events several times, but no one suspected that he shouldn't have been there. His disguise was simply flawless. Thinking back to the few times he had interacted with LV Wenho, Wang Sheng could not find any connection between LV Wenho and Carefree City. Instead, the identity of the Imperial Treasure House's young master was deeply rooted in people's hearts. Now that he thought about it, why could the Imperial Treasure House become a major merchant house on par with Baoqing Yutang in the world? It wasn't this simple. Baoqing Yutang had the support of the entire Mountain Yu land. The Imperial Treasure House was even more ruthless. They were the Carefree City's business. No wonder the Imperial Treasure House was so unstoppable in the Carefree City. No wonder the Imperial Treasure House had so many branches in the world. No one had ever heard of how powerful they were. With LV Wenho's identity as the Carefree City Lord, all the questions were answered. Is Brother Lu the owner of the Imperial Treasure House or the Carefree City Lord? Wang Sheng asked a question that already had an answer. However, LV Wenho understood and smiled. The owner of the Imperial Treasure House has always been the Carefree City Lord. It has been so in every generation. This is the secret of every generation. If Brother Wang didn't ask, I wouldn't answer. Wang Sheng nodded and understood. The Carefree City was walking on several legs. The Assassin Hall could be regarded as one of the sources of wealth for the Carefree City. Another source of wealth was the Carefree City's real estate and protection fees. The third source was the Imperial Treasure House. At the same time, the Imperial Treasure House was also responsible for providing supplies to the Carefree City. Of course, for the sake of balance or camouflage, the Carefree City also allowed several other large merchant houses to enter. This is not right. Wang Sheng didn't seem to take LV Wenho's identity as the Carefree City Lord seriously at all. He directly complained. With your two identities combined, doesn't it mean that you alone have 70% of the wine business? Are you trying to trick me? In the wine business, Wang Sheng's creativity and technology accounted for 30%. The Carefree City Lord provided the background and accounted for 30%, and the Imperial Treasure House accounted for 40%. Now Wang Sheng discovered that LV Wenho accounted for the majority of the 70%. Ling who was listening on the side, curled her lips. After knowing the identity of her young master, shouldn't he be extremely surprised and afraid? Wang Sheng actually entangled himself in such a boring question. Sorry. LV Wenho chuckled, but he wasn't angry at all. It's my fault for hiding it, but according to the contribution in shares, my 70% is not excessive at all. His mouth was talking about ordinary business matters, but Wang Sheng's mind was spinning fast. LV Wenho had even revealed his identity as the Carefree City Lord. Unless he had absolute confidence that he could keep him and Lin Xiu here, he would never easily reveal his trump card. The few times we cooperated in the past were not bad. LV Wenho didn't care what Wang Sheng was thinking about now and continued to say with a smile. Because of Uncle Li, our cooperation was affected. Now, I will use Uncle Li's life to pay you back. You're too polite. Wang Sheng responded with a smile. Uncle Li is dead, and the misunderstanding between us has been resolved. I think we should be able to continue to cooperate. LV Wenho maintained his usual gentleness and said modestly, What does Duke think? Cooperation? How do we cooperate? Wang Sheng asked without batting an eyelid. What he could do at the moment, other than delay for a period of time and strive for a period of recovery, there seemed to be nothing else he could do. There are many ways. LV Wenho wasn't afraid that Wang Sheng wouldn't communicate and replied with a smile. Duke can decide which way of cooperation. Duke can decide. Aren't you afraid that I'll cheat you by cooperating with me? Wang Sheng asked with a smile. I'm sure you also know my relationship with the 8 great families now. Are you sure you want to wade into this muddy water? In fact, several hundred years ago, the carefree city lineage didn't contribute much in besieging the Lin family. LV Wenho explained to Wang Sheng on the surface, but in fact, he was saying it to Lin Xiao. Our relationship with the 8 great families isn't that close either. Otherwise, we wouldn't be forced to settle for a corner. I think our cooperation doesn't have as many concerns as they do. As he spoke, LV Wenho's gaze involuntarily looked towards Lin Xiao. Chapter 1467. The people present were all clear that the one who was truly standing between Wang Sheng and the world was actually Lin Xiao. 500 years ago, Lin Xiao's family was annihilated by the joint efforts of the present surviving family forces. She herself was even sealed for a full 500 years. Anybody else, this was an irreconcilable hatred. This kind of hatred was not what 1 or 2 people could resolve. No one knew that Lin Xiao actually never cared about it in her heart. Even the seal was arranged by her herself. Those things that the 8 great families were worried about, Lin Xiao did not take them seriously at all. But sadly, even if Lin Xiao said so in front of the 8 great families' family heads, the 8 great families' people did not dare to believe it either. Who could believe that an expert whose family was annihilated by them would get along with them peacefully? Lin Xiao dared to say it. They did not dare to believe it either. This matter, there was no solution. The only way was for one party to be exterminated completely without any worries. LV Wenho saying so was actually wanting to dispel Lin Xiao's hostility. The one he really wanted to cooperate with was Lin Xiao. At this point, Wang Sheng was clear, Lin Xiao was also clear. Do you have a large number of high-rank medicinal pills? Lin Xiao suddenly opened her mouth to ask. Yes. LV Wenho was overjoyed and hurriedly answered. Give a few to taste. Lin Xiao's words made LV Wenho and Ling speechless for a while. Did high-rank medicinal pills need to be tasted first? However, after being speechless, LV Wenho tilted his head at Ling without the slightest hesitation. Ling pursed her mouth and went forward unwillingly, handing a jade bottle to Lin Xiao's hands. Lin Xiao casually opened it and poured out 2 medicinal pills sealed by the array formation. Then, she pointed at Wang Sheng and said, Give the rest to him. Ling pursed her mouth, stood up, walked in front of Wang Sheng, and gave the jade bottle to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng took it and casually poured out one. Blowing lightly, the sealing array formation outside disappeared without a trace. A thick medicinal fragrance drifted out. His nose twitched twice, sniffing the smell exaggeratedly. Wang Sheng sent the medicinal pill into his mouth and swallowed it in one gulp without any hesitation. At the same time, the sealing array formation outside the 2 elixirs in Lin Xiao's hands instantly disappeared. Lin Xiao also smiled and swallowed the 2 elixirs. A warm current flowed through his body. Wang Sheng sensed it and confirmed that it was indeed a great nourishing pill for the body. After thinking for a while, he opened another pill and put it into the mouth of the unconscious Aki. The medicinal pill that LV Wenho took out was definitely not bad. Although it was a great supplement, the process was very gentle. Even the heavily injured Aki could endure it. It was definitely a good thing. Thanks. Wang Sheng thanked Lu Wenho and put away the jade bottle in a very natural manner. There were also 2 medicinal pills inside that could allow Wang Sheng to recover 60% of his battle prowess in a day or 2. Watching Wang Sheng and Lin Xiao eat his medicinal pills without the slightest hesitation, LV Wenho was very emotional. If it were him, under such circumstances, he would not dare to casually eat any of the pills given by the enemy. Not to mention medicinal pills, he probably would not even dare to drink a mouthful of water. But Wang Sheng and this woman dared to do so. This was the difference. Do you have a large number of high-level array masters? Lin Xiao ate the medicinal pills, and her face became a little ruddy. She asked LV Wenho indifferently. Yes. LV Wenho replied quickly. There are definitely more than 10 array masters in Worry-Free City. Do you have a cultivation place with rich spiritual energy and beautiful scenery? Lin Xiao asked again. Yes. LV Wenho was about to laugh. Lin Xiao asked this. Didn't it mean that she had the intention to cooperate? At this moment, LV Wenho wished he could tell Lin Xiao everything he had. There are at least 3 such places that only I know of. No one else knows of them at all. If you have all these, cooperation is not impossible. Lin Xiao really did not care. Other than her life, everything that the 8 great families wanted to know, the secrets of the lands of Thousand Despair, the secrets of Lin Xiao's cultivation, Lin Xiao did not care at all. She could take them out at any time. It did not matter who she cooperated with. Li Zhanfang can also provide these things. Wang Sheng, who was not far away, said, "Why should we cooperate with you? Brother Wang, it's not the same." LV Wenho smiled and turned to Wang Sheng, beginning to explain. Speaking of which, when LV Wenho addressed Wang Sheng, he had always called him Brother Wang. From the beginning, when Wang Sheng had no status, until Wang Sheng became the Duke Changsheng, this had not changed. This form of address made LV Wenho seem different from others. After Brother Wang left the capital, you have never used the power of Li Zhanfang. LV Wenho analyzed for Wang Sheng seriously. Until now, it has been the same. This is the smartest thing about Brother Wang. Why do you say so? Wang Sheng asked calmly. Brother Wang, why do you ask when you already know the answer? LV Wenho smiled and shook his head. Wang Sheng was pretending to be confused. However, LV Wenho did not mind and continued speaking. He saw that Lin Xiao also had a curious look on her face. His explanation was meant for her to hear. Brother Wang has never used the power of Li Zhanfang. This is the smartest thing to do. LV Wenho once again praised Wang Sheng. Everyone in the world knows the relationship between Brother Wang and Mayer. As long as Brother Wang uses the power of Li Zhanfang, the 8 great clans will have a perfect excuse to divide Li Zhanfang. Even with the protection of the royal family, it will not be enough. Everyone has a tacit understanding to follow this rule. LV Wenho said calmly. If Li Zhanfang does not interfere, then no one will. If Li Zhanfang does, then it will be a disaster. Of course, the enormous wealth of Li Zhanfang is something that everyone is afraid of. LV Wenho continued. Including me, everyone is afraid of it. Therefore, unless it is necessary, no one is willing to complicate the issue at this time. Brother Wang and the other parties have reached a tacit agreement. Princess Mayer? A mysterious smile suddenly appeared on Lin Xiao's face. She turned to Wang Sheng and asked, "Is she very beautiful?" Wang Sheng was startled. He thought that a peerless expert like Lin Xiao would not care about this kind of thing. He did not expect Lin Xiao to ask. Helpless, Wang Sheng could only nod and say, "Very beautiful." Mayer was, of course, beautiful, but her beauty and Lin Xiao's were 2 different types. Wang Sheng would not go against his conscience and say that Mayer was not beautiful in front of Lin Xiao. There is more than one Princess Mayer in Changsheng Duke's mansion in the capital. Ling had not liked Wang Sheng from the beginning. At this time, she seemed to deliberately join in the fun and said to Lin Xiao, "In the inner mansion of Changsheng Duke's mansion, there are more than 600 beauties of different appearances, and there are only beauties. Other than Changsheng Duke himself, there are no other men in the mansion. It is said that the few who went in are all eunuchs." Staying in the nest of beauties? Lin Xiao looked at Wang Sheng with a smile that was not a smile and asked with a smile, "You can say that." Wang Sheng smiled bitterly and nodded in acknowledgement. His gaze swept over Ling, and he shook his head slightly. Chapter 1468. In these few years, you only collected 600-something beauties? Linger, who was waiting to watch the show, didn't expect Lin Xiao's next sentence to be this. It was a complaint. That's right, it was indeed a complaint and dissatisfaction. But this was completely different from what Miss Linger imagined. What did she mean by only collected 600-something beauties? 600-something beauties was very little. What kind of big heart did this woman have? Only, Wang Sheng was also extremely speechless. He He had imagined many reactions from Lin Xiao. Some were jealous, some didn't care, but he never thought that Lin Xiao would complain that he didn't collect enough beauties. The beauties in Duke Chongqing's residence aren't ordinary beauties. Linger saw that Lin Xiao's reaction was completely wrong and quickly reminded, those are beauties who cultivate the Triumph Palace Yongchun Sutra. All of them. Yongchun Sutra? Lin Xiao was indeed attracted by Linger's words and directly said the name of the Yongchun Sutra. Linger was just about to explain what the Eternal Spring Mantra was, as well as how people who cultivated the Eternal Spring Mantra would become men's playthings and other basic knowledge. However, Lin Xiao spoke before Linger could. I only roughly figured out the Yongchun Sutra back then. It's still very imperfect. Lin Xiao frowned and said to Wang Sheng, those who cultivate the Yongchun Sutra have no combat power at all. Do you like this kind of weak type? Wang Sheng's mouth opened wide as if an egg could be stuffed in it. The Yongchun Sutra was created by Lin Xiao. Linger wasn't much better. She also had a dumbfounded look. She didn't expect that this was a cultivation method created by someone else, and she still had to explain it to an expert. To be precise, it was figured out by Lin Ling. Lin Xiao didn't even think about letting Wang Sheng answer. She just said she doesn't really like fighting and killing things, but she's good in these areas. However, not long after the Yongchun Sutra was created, they attacked. It was probably that Triumph Palace person who took Lin Ling's scroll. LV Wenho listened quietly with a smile. When he suddenly heard the name Lin Ling, his smiling pupils constricted and then returned to normal. Anyone who knew that if there was another expert like Lin Xiao, they would probably be filled with trepidation. Luckily, Lin Xiao also said that Lin Ling didn't like fighting and killing. This was probably another piece of good news. Someone in the younger generation improved the Eternal Spring Mantra. Wang Sheng then gave a bitter smile and replied, up until the 8th stage realm, you still don't have much battle power. But when you reach the 9th stage realm, your battle power is shocking. Although you can maintain your youth forever, you have to pay the price of not being able to get pregnant. Not bad. Lin Xiao actually nodded and praised. This is definitely the best cultivation method that First Madam has chosen for a concubine to cultivate. Without children, she can't fight for a position in the family. She can also increase the beauty of a concubine to attract men. When necessary, she can protect herself. She's the best choice for a concubine. Miss Linger was completely speechless. Can these two people's thoughts be a little more normal? Wasn't the main point now that Wang Sheng had collected more than 600 beauties to indulge in debauchery and debauchery? How did it turn into a discussion about cultivation techniques? A good choice for a Tongfang girl? Why don't you cultivate after you have a child? Isn't it better to protect your own youth forever? But Lin Xiao suddenly realized something as she looked up and down at Wang Sheng, who was not far away, her gaze revealing a strange look. This gaze made Miss Linger instantly happy. This big-hearted top expert had finally reacted to it, right? What she wanted was this effect, to see how Wang Sheng faced a jealous #1 expert in the world. Just thinking about it was interesting. But what? Wang Sheng had taken LV Wenho's medicinal pill, and his body was much better. At least his small movements wouldn't be affected. After looking at himself a few times in bewilderment, he then asked Lin Xiao puzzledly, 600 over beauties, can your body take it? Lin Xiao asked seriously, no wonder your cultivation isn't that good now, so it's like this. I remember a cultivation method, which is most suitable for this kind of situation. Do you want to learn? Puffed. Wang Sheng almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. How wronged he was. All in all, there were only 3.5 people who had slept with Wang Sheng. One was Mer, one was Song Yin, one was Rosa, and the remaining half was Aki. Although 600 beauties were good, Wang Sheng hadn't touched any of them. Like Wang Sheng, Linger also wanted to spit out a mouthful of old blood. At this moment, Linger suddenly had an indescribable feeling that couldn't be described. If she came from the same place as Wang Sheng, then she would definitely think of the great sage equal to heaven in Master Xing's journey to the west, the exorcism. I told you that I kill without batting an eye, and you asked me if my eyes were dry. Is this the main point of our conversation? Don't worry. Lin Xiao acted as if she didn't see Wang Sheng's expression and continued. If you feel sorry for those beauties of yours, wait for me to help you ponder over that eternal spring mantra when I have time. Eternal youth is a bit too much. It's enough to have a youthful appearance of 200 years, and you don't have to pay that price. After saying that, Wang Sheng was completely speechless. Young Mistress Linger suddenly fluttered her long eyelashes. She was somewhat tempted. She could maintain her youthful appearance for 200 years without paying much of a price. Even though young Mistress Linger was already an epic expert, she couldn't help but be tempted at this moment. If these words were said by someone else, even Tantai Yao, who had the highest attainments in the Eternal Spring Mantra, Linger probably wouldn't be so easily tempted. But the problem was that these words were said by Lin Xiao. The Eternal Spring Mantra was created by her in the beginning. She was the ancestral master. So how could her words not make any woman excited? LV Wenho had been observing quietly. At this moment, he could already see very clearly that Linger's petty actions weren't taken to heart by Wang Sheng or Lin Xiao. Linger was too headstrong. Apart from LV Wenho, she didn't take anyone seriously. From the moment she met Wang Sheng, she had been completely suppressed by Wang Sheng in certain aspects. Her indignant thoughts had the upper hand, and it was the same now. Originally, LV Wenho had hoped that Lin Xiao would fall out with Wang Sheng because of this. Now it seemed unrealistic. Therefore, LV Wenho immediately took the initiative to smooth things over. He smiled at Wang Sheng and said, Li Jinfang has tens of billions of assets and countless beauties. Yet, Brother Wang left so carefreely. I can't catch up to you. I'm impressed. These words were enough to make it clear that Wang Sheng couldn't have any ties with Li Jinfang now. At the end of the day, Wang Sheng's rise was too short, and Li Jinfang's strength wasn't enough. Wang Sheng was also very clear about this. If he didn't want Mei and her business empire to be divided, he could only do this. If Wang Sheng was given another 20 years, Wang Sheng wouldn't care about any family. If Li Jinfang can't do it, there's still the Dao sect. Wang Sheng knew LV Wenho's plan and said tit for tat, Brother LV, don't tell me you think that the Dao sect is afraid of the 8 families. Chapter 1469. Brother Wang, Dao sect doesn't only have the Grand Supreme Lord Temple. LV Wenho wasn't nervous at all and replied calmly. On some things, Dao sect is consistent, but most of the time, they aren't as close as a family. Otherwise, it would be the Dao sect and not the 6 Dao sects, right? Brother Wang. Wang Sheng couldn't refute it because it was the truth. The 6 branches of Taoism were divided into 6 branches because of some differences in philosophy and understanding of some of the patriarchs' ideas. In fact, the differences in the past were more serious. There were 7 branches of Dao sect, but one of them joined forces with Shangyue country to brainwash them and was destroyed by the other 6 branches. Just the Grand Supreme Lord Temple alone doesn't mean that the 8 families can do whatever they want, right? Wang Sheng retorted with a smile. The Grand Supreme Lord Temple is indeed powerful. They have a deep foundation and an expert like Ancestor Ling Su. Their strength can't be underestimated. LV Wenho completely agreed with Wang Sheng, but he still had a reason. But the Grand Supreme Lord Temple has a reason not to make a move now. Please advise. Wang Sheng stretched out his hand and made an inviting gesture. The elixir given by LV Wenho was indeed miraculous. He felt much better after chatting for such a short while. The entire Dao sect had already made it clear that they wouldn't participate in secular affairs during the last Dao sect Dharma assembly. This is the first reason. LV Wenho spoke clearly and even gave them numbers one by one. The second reason is that the Grand Supreme Lord Temple annexed a branch of Dao sect and is currently digesting it. The other 5 branches of Dao sect are also very wary of the Grand Supreme Lord Temple. If the Grand Supreme Lord Temple intervenes in your matter, it will give the other 5 branches of Dao sect and other families a chance to join forces. Wang Sheng nodded. These 2 reasons made sense. He knew better than anyone that many things in this world were actually related to interests, and Dao sect was no exception. The 6 branches of Dao sect had different understandings, So if the Grand Supreme Lord Temple made other moves, it would only bring about misunderstandings and not cooperation like the last time when they obtained the Patriarch's inheritance. Even if Wang Sheng had the title of a secular elder of the Laojun Temple, he would not be able to do so. Everyone knew what Wang Sheng was doing now. If they accepted Wang Sheng or stood up for Wang Sheng, not only would the 8 great clans be hostile, but the other 5 branches of Taoism would also think that it was a sign that the Laojun Temple was expanding its strength and was preparing to swallow them up. The Laojun Monastery's base in the land of 1,000 despair has been evacuated. LV Wenho wasn't afraid to give Wang Sheng the last straw. I heard that the Grand Abbot of Laojun Temple personally rushed to the base and took him away. Old ancestor Ling Su also left with him. However, he sent out a message through the worry-free city. Whoever dares to kill you, he will kill their entire family in the future. Wang Sheng believed that this was the greatest support old Taoist Ling Su could give him. After all, the old Taoist was a member of the Laojun Temple. When the Grand Abbot personally came to state the pros and cons, old Taoist Ling Su couldn't be willful. Fortunately, Wang Sheng had already expected this. In fact, he had even warned old Taoist Ling Su before setting off, so nothing was out of the ordinary. Seeing that Wang Sheng was very calm and didn't show any signs of anger, LV Wenho continued, "Of course, it's impossible for the royal family. Brother Wang, I believe you know better than anyone that the cooperation with the royal family is just a cooperation based on interests. This concerns the survival of the royal family, so they can't challenge the bottom line of the 8 great clans. Even if Brother Wang stays in the capital and doesn't go out, it's not possible. Can it be done in the worry-free city?" Wang Sheng asked with a smile. The worry-free city has always been the long-term residence of the wanted criminals of the various clans. LV Wenho nodded without hesitation. This is a rule that everyone in the world has followed for hundreds of years. It's not a rule that was formed in the capital in a few years and can be broken at will. Are you sure that the worry-free city dares to take us in? A smile appeared on Wang Sheng's face as he looked at LV Wenho. LV Wenho's eyes met Wang Sheng's for a long time before he finally let out a long sigh and admitted, "Actually, the worry-free city dares not either. Then what other opportunities do we have for cooperation?" Wang Sheng wasn't surprised. The worry-free city only appeared after the Lin family was destroyed. Even if they didn't contribute much, it was impossible for them to stay out of the matter. The worry-free city appeared after the Lin family was destroyed. There were so many forces in the world that could set that rule for the worry-free city, so they could also abolish that rule. Of course, the worry-free city wouldn't dare to openly accept Brother Wang. LV Wenho smiled a little awkwardly. He turned his gaze to Lin Xiao and gave her a gentle smile. Then he said, "However, no one knows that LV Wenho is the worry-free city lord. So, some things can still be carried out in secret." Wang Sheng and Lin Xiao were smart people. They immediately understood from LV Wenho's words that LV Wenho planned to secretly cooperate with the two of them. "Why?" Wang Sheng asked LV Wenho. "Knowing our current situation, Brother LV still wants to cooperate with us?" "Brother Wang, I'm the owner of the Imperial Treasury." LV Wenho smiled. He wasn't afraid of Wang Sheng asking for the reason. He was afraid that Wang Sheng would directly refuse. As long as Wang Sheng didn't completely block the road, he had something to talk about. "In essence, I am a businessman. This time, I'm optimistic about the future of the two of you. So, I'm investing in the future of the two of you." LV Wenho's words instantly reminded Wang Sheng of a character in the history of Earth. That person was called LV Bouet. He was also a businessman. He was best at hoarding rare goods. He invested in Zi Chu and assisted Zi Chu to become the king of Qin. He also became the prime minister of the Qin state, Marquis Wenxin. This was a successful businessman who was recorded in the annals of history. Lin Xiao was the #1 expert 500 years ago. If he could get Lin Xiao's favor when Lin Xiao recovered, LV Wenho would definitely surpass the 8 major families. Relatively speaking, Wang Sheng was not so important. After all, no matter how powerful Wang Sheng was, it was impossible to be better than Lin Xiao. However, in terms of economy, Wang Sheng was much stronger than Lin Xiao. Li Jinfeng made tens of billions of gold coins in just 2 or 3 years. This was absolutely unprecedented. Wang Sheng couldn't show up. The owner of the imperial treasury, LV Wenho, had outstanding business skills. It didn't seem excessive at all. What kind of cooperation? Wang Sheng asked calmly. It's a bit embarrassing to talk about. LV Wenho's face was a little embarrassed. He apologized to Wang Sheng. For the time being, it is estimated that Brother Wang can't provide a suitable place for Miss Lin to heal. So, it's best for me to take Miss Lin away to find a place to heal. What about him? Lin Xiao asked. I'm afraid Brother Wang will have to suffer for a period of time, LV Wenho said with a wry smile. Once the two disappear at the same time, the whole world will dig 3 feet deep to find the two. So, the best way is for me to take only one. Chapter 1470. LV Wenho said that he could only take one away, but it was obvious that he had already decided to take Lin Xiao away. It was said that he was wronging Wang Sheng, but that was only to let Wang Sheng be the target to attract the attention of all the experts in the world to Wang Sheng, so that the people of Carefree City could take Lin Xiao away without anyone knowing. It had to be said that LV Wenho had a good plan, and he had already predicted that Wang Sheng would definitely agree to this choice. Previously, LV Wenho and Ling Er had always thought that Wang Sheng and Lin Xiao were in a relationship, but when Ling Er deliberately provoked Lin Xiao with a few words, Lin Xiao's performance made LV Wenho and Ling Er completely relieved that the two were not in that kind of relationship. In the whole world, no woman was willing to share their man with another woman. If Lin Xiao was Wang Sheng's woman, with her strong and proud background and character, Mei Er, Rosa, and all the beauties in Du Chongqing's residence would not be able to live. Since they were not in a relationship, it was easy to separate the two. The number one expert of the Lin family 500 years ago, after being sealed for 500 years, did she still not know what to choose? To take revenge, choose Wang Sheng who was suppressed alone, or choose the powerful Carefree City. There was almost no need to think to know the right answer. As expected, Lin Xiao didn't even look in Wang Sheng's direction. She calmly said to LV Wenho, I want 10 maidservants to serve me at all times. No problem. Such a simple condition. LV Wenho agreed without hesitation. Not to mention 10 maids, he could even find 10 legend rank maids. During my recuperation, for at least half a year, don't let any messy things bother me. Lin Xiao continued to make demands. No problem. This was not a problem, so LV Wenho immediately agreed without hesitation. Wasn't it just half a year? He had waited for 500 years in Carefree City. Why would he care about half a year? Those things mentioned before, you can't lack any of them, Lin Xiao said again. Of course, LV Wenho still agreed straightforwardly. Secret places with good scenery and abundant spiritual qi, all kinds of high-level medicinal pills, a ray formation grandmaster, all these were not a problem at all. What major events have happened in the past few hundred years? Send the records of these major events to the place where I'm recuperating, Lin Xiao instructed again. He wasn't probing for conditions at all. He was directly giving orders. Everything is complete and will be delivered soon. LV Wenho didn't feel that there was anything wrong with Lin Xiao's tone. The experts of the Lin family 500 years ago should have such high and mighty confidence when facing anyone. Give Wang Sheng another bottle of the pills from earlier. Lin Xiao finally thought of Wang Sheng and directly asked for a bottle of medicinal pills for Wang Sheng. At the same time, she did not forget to comment, the taste is not bad. That alchemist level is not bad. This time, LV Wenho did not speak. Instead, he tilted his head. Linger immediately took out a jade bottle and handed it to Wang Sheng. Although LV Wenho did not feel heartache at all for sending things to Wang Sheng, Lin Xiao's evaluation of the alchemist level made the corners of LV Wenho's mouth twitch. Any alchemist who meticulously refined the ice-hard Haworthia pills would probably be depressed for countless days just to be evaluated by others as having a good taste. But the one evaluating was the Lin family's #1 expert back then. Even in her weakened state, her knowledge and ability definitely gave her the qualifications to criticize and criticize. Perhaps this bottle of Ice Heart Haworthia pills was only worthy of this evaluation. From a moment Lin Xiao started raising conditions, Lin Xiao never communicated with Wang Sheng again. Wang Sheng also did not say a word, seemingly having accepted this fact. If not for that conversation between Lin Xiao and Wang Sheng before she met LV Wenhou, Wang Sheng would not let Lin Xiao fall into anyone's hands, even if he was beaten to death. But Lin Xiao made her own decision and then told him that she would wait for him to rescue her. After that, Wang Sheng no longer insisted. Wasn't the current situation exactly what he discussed with Lin Xiao previously? The last condition, food, drink, clothing, and use, it all has to be the best. Lin Xiao raised another condition after watching Wang Sheng receive the medicinal pills. LV Wenhou suddenly discovered that this condition that originally should have been the easiest to satisfy turned out to be the hardest. Food. Where's the best food? This question casually asked anyone, they would tell you. Changsheng Duke Manor. Drink? Same. Changsheng Duke Manor. Where? Dream Lane, Changsheng Duke Manor's property. Use? Qinxing Essence Moisturizing Workshop, Elegant Charm. These things were similarly Changsheng Duke Manor's property. Carefree City, My Family Chef, you guys pick him up. Wang Sheng finally opened his mouth, making LV Wenhou also let out a long sigh. Also those two maidservants, bring them over together. The Carefree City Lord picking up 3 servants in Carefree City was too easy. LV Wenhou nodded without a word, his eyes revealing a grateful look. If Wang Sheng did not nod his head, it would probably be hard for him to do it. Breaking the rules in the inner city of Carefree City under the watchful eyes of the public, that was something that only a fool would do. The things in the capital, you can use gold coins to buy. No need for me to inform, Wang Sheng said again. LV Wenhou nodded again. Now that it was Wang Sheng's turn to speak, Lin Xiao fell silent. Brother LV, if I'm saying if. Wang Sheng smiled and asked LV Wenhou, if I don't agree to this cooperation, what will you do? Be it LV Wenhou or Ling Er, they did not expect that Wang Sheng would ask this question. But fortunately, they also understood that Wang Sheng only said if and did not really refuse to cooperate. Although I really don't want to admit it, but LV Wenhou smiled bitterly and replied to Wang Sheng. You also know that my identity as the Carefree City Lord is absolutely not allowed for outsiders to know. You understand? Wang Sheng nodded his head. Of course he understood. Not just LV Wenhou's identity as the Carefree City Lord. Once Wang Sheng rejected, LV Wenhou and Ling Er would immediately become enemies. Merchants would only maximize their own benefits. They would not hesitate to kill Wang Sheng and Lin Xiao, so as to pull the relationship between Carefree City and the 8 great clans closer. They would also be able to legitimately ask for a share of the 1,000 despair secrets. At this time, Wang Sheng and Lin Xiao were both injured and extremely weak. So what if Lin Xiao's battle instincts were powerful? LV Wenhou did not need to fight at all. As long as he set fire from afar, Wang Sheng and Lin Xiao would be buried in the sea of fire. No matter how capable they were, the two of them could only die with hatred on the spot. Smart people would not be foolish enough to step forward to kill someone. All right, Wang Sheng was still satisfied with LV Wenhou's answer. At least he did not lie to Wang Sheng. Help me send Aki over. Let Aki wear that set of clothes too. She can deceive others from afar. At the same time, Wang Sheng also swept a glance at Lin Xiao's eyes. The two people's eyes flickered with the glow of mutual trust that flashed past. Chapter 1471. LV Wenhou paid great attention to certain details. Even when he helped send Aki to Wang Sheng's side, it was Miss Linger who did it on his behalf. Although Wang Sheng and Lin Xiao already knew that there was a team of experts led by LV Wenhou not far away, the epic expert Miss Linger did these things that should have been done by her subordinates without any hesitation. Aki was sent to Wang Sheng's side along with the diving suit that Wang Sheng had made with the skin of a 14th-stage super sperm whale. It was to help Lin Xiao resist some subtle attacks. Many people had seen this diving suit, and had also seen Wang Sheng carrying Lin Xiu on his back. Therefore, if this diving suit was put on Aki and Wang Sheng carried it for a while, it might be able to fool the experts of the 8 great families for a while. As long as they did not observe or fight at close range, they could basically fool them. Let your people come over. Lin Xiu witnessed all this and said expressionlessly, I'm tired. I want to rest. LV Wenho stretched out his hand and clapped twice. In an instant, 10 female experts quickly appeared from the forest behind him. After respectfully saluting LV Wenho, they turned to Lin Xiu and also respectfully saluted Lin Xiu. Then they walked to her side. Wang Sheng looked at these 10 female experts, and his heart could not help but beat rapidly. Each of the 10 people had the aura of a legendary expert, and each of them seemed to be experienced killers who had killed countless people. However, their actions were so uniform at this moment, and their discipline was no worse than that of the veterans in Wang Sheng's military camp on Earth. The strength of Carefree City and the Imperial Treasury was far stronger than what outsiders saw. In addition to the epic experts, they also had enough legendary experts. Moreover, Wang Sheng had no doubt that the combat power of these female experts was definitely not inferior to the legendary experts of the 8 great families. After all, they had the guidance of epic experts Linger and Uncle Li for a long time. Even their advancement did not follow the path of encouragement from the Grandmaster's concert, but through pure combat. What kind of prestige did LV Wenho have to command these experts? With his age, relying on his experience of taking over the Imperial Treasury for just a few years, Wang Sheng suspected that LV Wenho's cultivation was even higher than Ling Er's. It was just that Wang Sheng couldn't see it for the time being. The 8 female experts took out some items from their storage rings in a very orderly manner. In the blink of an eye, they had assembled a bed that was large enough for Lin Xiu to lie on. The 2 female experts carefully helped Lin Xiu lie down on the couch and found a comfortable position to lie down. Before lying down, Lin Xiu stretched out her hand and pulled out the hairpin that was pinned to her hair. Her long hair fell down and once again became a shawl. The moment Lin Xiu's hair fell down, Wang Sheng clearly saw the light in Lin Xiu's eyes change. Lin Xiu's gaze instantly became gentle, not so domineering. Her temperament, which was originally like an unsheathed sword, suddenly became gentle. At this instant, Wang Sheng had a premonition that it wasn't Lin Xiu lying on that bed. It was Lin Ling, LV Wenho, and Ling of course, also felt all this. The Lin Xiu standing and the Lin Xiu lying down were 2 completely different people. It was as if all the spirit chi in Lin Xiu's body was consumed in an instant, and she became an ordinary person without the slightest cultivation. Of course, perhaps it was because everyone had reached an agreement to cooperate, and Lin Xiu no longer felt pressured, so she relaxed. This was very normal. When one was about to fight with their lives on the line, there would definitely be murderous intent and aggressive spirit. But once one relaxed, one would most likely be immediately exhausted. It would take a few days to recuperate. They were all assassins, and they had seen the situation too many times. It was not surprising. Brother Wang, take care. Seeing that Lin Ling was already lying on the soft couch, LV Wenho smiled and cupped his hands at Wang Sheng. An assassin in Carefree City will occasionally see Brother Wang appear in the land of 1,000 extremes and draw a map. I believe many people will soon know that Brother Wang is still in the land of 1,000 extremes. See you later. Wang Sheng sat and cupped his hands at LV Wenho. He watched Lin Ling lying on the soft couch enter the forest. Then, LV Wenho and Miss Ling brought up the rear and also entered the forest. Soon, their figures disappeared. After a while, even a little person with battle awareness could not detect the people of Carefree City. When LV Wenho's people had all left Wang Sheng's sensing range, Lin Ling, who was on the soft couch, suddenly asked LV Wenho, who was not far away, "How will you deal with him?" She did not say who, but LV Wenho immediately understood that she was asking about Wang Sheng. Since it is a cooperation, then there is no such thing as dealing with him or not. LV Wenho had been maintaining the cleanest and most comfortable state. The smile on his face was still there. He smiled at Lin Ling. We will not take the initiative to deal with Brother Wang. We will just go with the flow. We will not put in too much effort, and we will not fall behind others. We will just follow the other forces and work hard to perform. Carefree City will not be the one to stand out, and it will not be different from everyone else. Do you understand what I mean? Lin Ling and Lin Xiao had two souls in one body. What Lin Xiao knew, Lin Ling would know the moment she woke up. She was very satisfied with LV Wenho's attitude. LV Wenho meant that Carefree City would pretend that they did not see Wang Sheng and follow everyone's attitude. They would just do the work and not put in the effort. That was all. If Wang Sheng was unlucky and was attacked, they would not come out. If Wang Sheng was lucky enough to escape the pursuit of the big families, then Carefree City would not be better than the 8 families. They would not take the initiative to hunt him. Give me 2 more of the pills from before. Lin Ling didn't ask anything else and just wanted pills. It was still Lin Ling. This time, she not only brought 2 pills, but also removed the seal formation. Lin Ling smiled at her and swallowed the 2 pills. Right now, her body was already able to withstand this kind of gentle, nourishing elixir. I'm very tired. I need to sleep. Lin Ling said to LV Wenho. I hope when I wake up, we will be at the place you mentioned. Then, Lin Ling closed her eyes. LV Wenho was planning to say something, but seeing Lin Ling close her eyes, he smartly didn't say anything. Moments later, Lin Ling fell into a deep sleep. She went into a deep sleep with the dozens of masters around her almost defenseless. This made LV Wenho not know how to describe his feelings. He just looked dazedly at Lin Ling's sleeping face. Ling Er walked with LV Wenho for a long while. When Lin Ling was completely asleep, Ling Er took out a formation stone and activated it. A soundproof formation instantly enveloped the two. Young master, can she control it? Ling Er asked LV Wenho worriedly. Chapter 1472. What do you think? LV Wenho smiled bitterly and asked Ling, instead of answering directly. We might not be able to beat her. Ling Er had always been LV Wenho's brain. She didn't refuse and said, she's not as easy to control as Uncle Li. Why don't you just say you can't control it? LV Wenho smiled. He was very grateful that Ling was trying to save face for him. LV Wenho looked at Lin Ling, who had fallen asleep, and sighed. Not only can we not control it, but we might have also invited a great aunt back. We have to serve her carefully and not make her unhappy. Young master, do you want to get something from her? Ling didn't agree with LV Wenho's decision. She hadn't figured out LV Wenho's thoughts yet. This was a good opportunity to ask LV Wenho. What can I get? LV Wenho shook his head and turned to Ling Er. He smiled and asked, You're not thinking of getting the secrets of the ground of despair from her, are you? Can I? That was what Ling Er was thinking. Before Lin Ling recovered, she wouldn't have much power to resist. He could force her to tell him the secrets of cultivation. Don't think about it. LV Wenho looked at Ling Er seriously and said, Don't think about it in the future, no matter what. Give her whatever she wants while she recovers. Don't think about anything else. Ling Er was smart, but her advantage was her memory. There was almost nothing in the world that she didn't know. However, in terms of analysis, she was much worse than LV Wenho. This was why LV Wenho brought her around and used her as his brain, but didn't let Ling Er make decisions. Seeing that Ling Er still didn't understand, LV Wenho looked at the sleeping Lin Ling and explained, Back then, why did the world turn against the Lin family and attack the Lin family? Do you really think it was because the Lin family had the strongest master in the world? Was it because of the secrets of the ground of despair? Ling was a smart person. Since LV Wenho asked this, if she still couldn't figure it out, wouldn't she be too stupid? However, Ling Er still couldn't believe it. Was this the truth from 500 years ago? Don't forget, there are still 24 experts in there who have sealed themselves to protect the things inside. LV Wenho pointed in the direction of the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair, and a disdainful smile appeared on his face. What do you think is worth the price paid by the 24 strongest experts from 500 years ago? The secret of her becoming the world's #1 expert. Linger instantly came to a conclusion. It could be a cultivation method, or it could be some kind of secret manual. She relied on those things to become the #1 expert in the world. So, we don't have to risk falling out with her to find out anything. LV Wenho nodded his head and said to Linger, "In any case, when the time comes, as long as we behave well and don't stand out, we'll follow the crowd. When the 8 great clans eat the meat, they'll have to give us some soup. But if we only rely on some leftovers from others, won't we suffer a great loss?" Linger signaled to Lin Ling with her eyes. She would need a lot of resources to recover. When we broke through to this realm, did we follow the secret manuals of our predecessors? LV Wenho suddenly talked about their cultivation, and he seemed to have a confident temperament all of a sudden. After the 9th level, other than listening to a Grandmaster's concert and talking to Uncle Lee a few times, we figured everything out on our own. Linger was indescribably proud and confident. In this world, there were only a handful of people who broke through without the guidance of a Grandmaster's concert. She and her young master were 2 of them, and they directly broke through to the epic state. Linger couldn't help but feel proud and confident. We can find a most suitable path for ourselves. Why should we be guided by other people's cultivation method? LV Wenho smiled proudly again. Without these things, we can also break through. Why must we follow other people's path? Her path might not be suitable for us. Trust me, as long as there are some so-called leftovers for us to use for reference, that would be enough. Then why? Linger glanced at Lin Ling and couldn't resist asking LV Wenho. You want to say that we're merchants? Why would we do things that don't benefit us, right? LV Wenho saw Linger's rare, confused expression and smiled. Linger nodded. That was what she meant. Since they didn't want to get anything from Lin Ling, why take the risk to protect her and help her recover? Things that didn't benefit but required a huge price. Lin Ling's recovery required all sorts of resources converted to gold coins. It wasn't a small number. They hadn't seen each other for long, and they already took out 2 bottles of ice-hard dew pills. Although this pill wasn't as precious as the origin pill, it was still the work of a top-notch alchemy grandmaster. 2 bottles of it could easily be sold for several million gold coins. Moreover, it was a good item that would be sold out the moment it was taken out. We don't need to get anything from her. She just needs to remember that we help her recover and not attack us again. LV Wenho said plainly, 500 years ago, the Lin family was annihilated by the entire world. What is the first thing she does after recovering? Linger instantly understood. Such a deep hatred, even if Linger had never experienced it. But if it were her, the first thing she would do after recovering from her injuries would be to tear the culprit into pieces. Without the culprit, their descendants would have to bear all of this for their ancestors. Who was the culprit back then? Now, the 8 families were the first to bear the brunt, followed by the royal family and other small sections. Once Lin Ling started her revenge, no matter how strong the 8 families were now, they would be greatly weakened. It wasn't impossible for them to be annihilated. At that time, the worryless city didn't need to do much. It would be a victory as long as they didn't lose anything. Lin Ling was just one person. She couldn't take revenge on everyone in the world alone. Therefore, only the most powerful forces would be purged. The worry-free city and some of the smaller sects could easily remain intact without arousing suspicion. When both sides fought to the death, the worryless city would naturally become an influential force. With the secret financial support of the Imperial Treasure House, it would be easy to become a major force that could control the state of the world. If we can make her agree to abide by the rules of the worryless city and not attack as long as she escapes into the worryless city, that would be even better. Linger was indeed LV Wenho's strategist. As soon as LV Wenho said his plan, Linger happily helped. LV Wenho also looked forward to it. If that was the case, it would be great. Chapter 1473. LV Wenho didn't even dare to think about the latter. He wasn't sure if Lin Ling would let some important figures of the 8 families go when she had the upper hand. Was Lin Ling, who killed more than 2,000 top masters 500 years ago, really that easy to talk to? However, As long as Lin Ling could carry out her revenge, everything else wasn't important, wasn't it? Although the carefree city was strong now, they were still a bit careful. After all, they didn't dare to be too presumptuous against the 8 families. It would be great if he could bring Wang Sheng along as well. Unfortunately, he could not. When LV1 Ho and Ling carefully took Lin Ling away from the land of Thousand Despair, Wang Sheng had to protect Aki first. The Ice Heart Dew pill was really good. Wang Sheng had a fortune pill, but that was too strong for Aki. It wasn't as good as a warm pill like the Ice Heart Dew pill. After the heavily injured Aki took one, she still looked unconscious on the surface. However, the result of Wang Sheng's spirit chi inspection was that she was recovering bit by bit from her previous injuries and the weakness caused by Wang Sheng's injection. In a few more hours, she would be able to recover to a very good state. If there was an Ice Heart Dew pill, the effect would be even better. Ling was very meticulous. When she sent Seven over, she had already put Wang Sheng's diving suit on him. She even meticulously untied Seven's hair to let it fall down. From afar, it looked just like Lin Ling. Wang Sheng could rest here for a few hours and let Aki recover a little. LV1 Ho wouldn't leave anyone alive around him to let people know his secret. Especially when he took Lin Ling away, it couldn't be leaked. Wang Sheng didn't even need to search carefully to know that there would be no one alive within a 10-mile radius. In fact, Wang Sheng couldn't hold on much longer. The pills were not bad, but Wang Sheng had expended a lot of energy all this while. Coupled with the exhaustion from fighting Uncle Li with the primordial Guyuan palm, he could still hold on mentally, but his body was already exhausted. It just so happened that he needed to rest. After using the 7-words formula of the Buddhist incantation of 9 words to mobilize the insects in the surroundings, Wang Sheng hugged Aki, leaned against the big tree behind him, and slowly fell asleep. At this time, there was nothing better than a deep sleep to relieve fatigue. Wang Sheng had gone to sleep peacefully, but the 8 great families were getting anxious. Due to the rash actions of the Dai clan's leader, less than 50 of the over 400 experts from the 8 great clans returned in the end. Of course, the Song clan had concealed the number of survivors. According to the number Song Yan had reported, only the Tang clan and the Song clan had a total of more than 40 people who had escaped. Another group of powerful beings from the 8 major clans rushed over to the location provided by the Tang and Song clans to ascertain what had happened and whether there were any survivors that could be saved. It would take some time to get there, and the exact news hadn't been sent back yet. Confirming the casualties was a small matter. The real problem was that the alliance formed by the royal family, the carefree city, a few business families, and a bunch of small clans and sects wanted to participate in the process of unsealing the powerful beings. Their reason was very good. Perhaps their ancestors were among the 24 powerful beings. The 8 great clans could use their tough attitude to suppress this, but that would be a bad plan. It would be fine if the news hadn't been leaked, but now that the news couldn't be kept under wraps, they would become public enemies if they continued to play like this. Although the 8 great clans wouldn't really care about this, the words of the Tang clan's leader made everyone reconsider. If the powerful beings inside aren't so weak after unsealing, what should we do? The leader of the Tang clan had seen how weak Lin Ling was after coming out. He knew how terrifying Lin Ling was at the time. Lin Ling must have fought to the very last moment and had no more energy to fight. That was why she was sealed. Hence, she was still weak after coming out. However, the problem was that the 24 powerful beings weren't sealed at the end of their rope. They might still be very lively when they came out. No one dared to be sure which ancestor was sealed in the sealing formation. If it wasn't, what if the other party realized that there weren't any descendants present and suddenly attacked? Even if it was from the 8 great clans, what if the first to come out felt that they had the advantage and actively suppressed the other clans? This wasn't the time to think about how to unseal the array formation. One must know that Wang Sheng had unsealed the array formation by relying on the heaven and earth spiritual qi generated by advancing to the legendary realm. It had lasted for a full 5 days, and with such a huge amount of spiritual qi, if they were to rely on the experts of the various families to attack, how long would it take? All in all, there were a lot of problems and concerns. The 8 great clans had to make a decision quickly. The leaders and grand elders were still on the way. They weren't sure if they knew the latest news yet. Batches of spirit beast messengers had taken off. The glacier lake was more lively than ever. There were arguments on the glacier lake, in the capital, in the worry-free city, and even on those flying mounts. A few hours later, the masters of the various families finally rushed to the Song family's ship on the glacier lake without hesitating to squeeze out the potential of their flying mounts. It was called a big ship, but it was made in the land of Thousand Despair after all. It wasn't very big. After the leaders, grand elders, and some important figures boarded the ship, other than 5 or 6 extremely powerful guards from each clan, everyone else was kicked off the ship and moved to other boats. There was no other place. Other than the leader of the Song family, who couldn't make it due to his injuries, the leaders of the 8 great clans, grand elders, and at least 2 elders were all present. It could be said that all the people in charge of the 8 great clans were gathered on this ship. Any decision could be approved by everyone here. On the Song family's ship, the leaders of the 8 great clans were quarreling in the cabin. First, a group of people complained about the leader of the Dai family. They scolded the new leader of the Dai family, Dai Xiao. Both times, it was the Dai family who started the fight. It would be strange if the leader of the Dai family didn't instigate it. At this time, the team that set out to find out what happened to the experts of the 8 great clans finally returned with news. There were a lot of traces of human activity in that area, but not a single living person could be found. Not even a complete corpse could be found. The only thing those people could find was a pile of scattered skeletons. In just a few hours, all the corpses had been devoured by the demonic beasts and insects of the place of Thousand Despair. If they had arrived any later, perhaps not even the bones would have been left behind. Chapter 1474. The patriarchs of the 8 great families looked at the report in silence. Other than Song Yin and the patriarch of the Tang family, who already knew the results, the patriarchs of the other 6 families were all speechless. How heartbreaking. Each patriarch had over 50 legend realm experts. Even if they had to kill 81 super demonic beasts, they would not have lost so many. The patriarchs of the 6 patriarchs were crying and bleeding in their hearts. They had just scolded the Dai family patriarch, and now they had turned their vengeful gazes towards Dai Xiao. Because of the Dai family's preemptive action, the top combat power of each patriarch had been reduced by more than half. Dai Xiao was already a 9th degree realm expert, and was only 1 step away from the legend realm. But facing the glare of the other patriarchs, Dai Xiao still lowered his head guiltily. No matter what the other patriarch's attitude was, Dai Xiao could only bear with it. If he really retorted at this time, it would incite the anger of the other patriarchs. Who knows, the 8 great clans might become the 7 great clans. The Dai family's resources could not withstand an attack of 7 against 1. Cough, cough. 2 coughs drew everyone's attention back to the scene. The person who coughed was the patriarch of the Tang family. Seeing everyone looking over, he coughed again and said, "Now is not the time to pursue responsibility. What do you think about the royal family and other forces' request?" This was the real problem that they had to face immediately. If it was not resolved properly, it might cause a world war. The 8 great clans might lose a few members. Those small families did not look like much, but when they joined forces, they were very terrifying. Dai Xiao secretly heaved a sigh of relief and was very grateful to the patriarch of the Tang family. If not for his reminder, the Dai family would not have been able to get through so easily. Dai Xiao, don't think that this matter is over. The patriarch of the Tang family saw Dai Xiao's action and snorted. After this matter is over, the Dai family will still have to pay the compensation. Yes, I will do as you say. What else could Dai Xiao say? The Dai family's strength was at the bottom along with the Xiao family. Now that they had incurred the wrath of the public, wouldn't they have to do whatever they said? With a single sentence, the Tang clan's clan head had decided that the Dai clan would definitely compensate them. As for the amount of compensation, each clan would naturally send someone to settle the score with the Dai clan. Such a small matter did not require the clan head and the great elders to personally go into battle. However, if the Dai clan didn't bleed this time, they would be letting down the experts they lost. What's a reply from the imperial family? The Tang family head once again raised this issue that they had to face immediately. Comparatively speaking, Wang Sheng's situation was not as urgent. Of course, not even 50 out of the 400 or so masters came back. That was a 1 in 10 survival rate. They only survived because they fled early. Now, they were sending masters to hunt Wang Sheng and Lin Ling. Wasn't that suicide? The other families weren't that stupid. Even if he wanted to deal with Lin Ling, he would have to wait for the 24 ancestors to come out. Lin Ling was the enemy of those ancestors. They wouldn't reject it. What will happen if we don't bring them along? Song Yin and Dai Xiao were the youngest among them. In terms of age, Song Yin was the younger one. Therefore, the moment she opened her mouth, she spoke with the anger of youth. Everyone present knew about the ill-fated relationship between Song Yin and Wang Sheng. Naturally, they understood why Song Yin was so angry. If anyone's man had been seduced by a woman from 500 years ago, they probably wouldn't have reacted better than Song Yin. Trouble. The head of the Feng clan didn't say anything, but the great elder spoke up to give Song Yin an answer. You also know that if a few or a dozen of the 24 ancestors in there aren't from our clans, needless to say, they were all old foxes, who didn't know the consequences. In fact, everyone, including Song Yin, already knew the pros and cons of monopolizing, as well as the cons of sharing. Now that they were all sitting together, they had to make a decision. Song Yan's words were just a catalyst to draw everyone's opinion. We probably don't have much time to waste on making a decision, the Gan family leader reminded. Everyone was well aware of these things, so he only reminded them. He didn't mention the reason or the result at all. If they couldn't even think of these things, what qualifications did they have to be the patriarch and the great elder? Let's vote. The head of the Shi clan did not waste any time and suggested the quickest solution. Should we let them join us? The Shi family agrees. The Shi family leader raised his hand. Let's join. The Tang family leader raised his hand. I agree. Song Yin raised her hand. The Qiu family and the Feng family raised their hands. Only the Dai family, Xia family, and Gan family remained silent. A few breaths later, the Gan family leader raised his hand as well. Although the Dai family and the Xia family were extremely unwilling, under the circumstances where 3/4 of the family heads had already passed, there was no point in them disagreeing. The Shi family leader seemed to be the host. Without waiting for Dai Xiao and Xia family leader to raise their hands, he announced the result. Since the majority agrees, let's let them join. Next, what price do they have to pay? What are the restrictions? They have to be in sync with us and have a unified command. This time, Song Yin was the first to state her requirements. Of course. Why do we need disobedient people to join? The old fox of the Tang family nodded. Also, the experts of each family must help, and all kinds of resources must be shared. If they want to join, they must contribute money and effort. At the same time, we can also find out how much wealth they have now. Everyone nodded. Letting the small families send experts would give them a rough idea of the strength of each family, and give the 8 families a clear reference. We will only give them 3 days. If they can't make it in time, they will be out. The Qiu family's elder added, we don't have much time to wait for them. This request was not unreasonable at all. Everyone agreed. At this point, the decision had been made. It was time to give the imperial family a reply. The 2 great elders of the Tang clan and Shi clan went out to deliver the letter to the imperial family after everyone nodded their heads. Although they agreed to let the imperial family join, it was not over. There were more important issues to discuss. This was a very serious issue for the families. The core issue was how to divide the spoils. After the seal is broken, how will the families share it? The essence of all the conflicts was actually this question. If this problem was not solved, not only would the imperial family affect the balance, even the 8 families would not be able to maintain peace. Profit was the root cause of all conflicts. Chapter 1475. It was impossible for the 8 families to decide on the principle of profit distribution alone because the royal family and those small forces might not agree. However, they could set a general framework and then negotiate with the royal family and the others. Of course, this general framework was definitely beneficial to the 8 families. As for what conditions the royal family and those small forces could fight for, that would depend on how the negotiations went and the strength of the various parties. After a few letters were sent out, the 8 families slowly waited for the news to be delivered and the various parties to arrive. During this period of time, they could make some preparations in advance and wait for the glacier lake water level to drop further before opening the array to enter. Now, only 9th-stage realm experts could enter. The 8 families had already sent a batch of 9th-stage realm experts in a plunder as much as they could and explore as much as they could. By then, this would be the capital for negotiation. However, 9th-stage realm experts had no way to unlock those seals. They would probably need to gather a batch of experts who were about to break through and use the spiritual chi of heaven and earth when they broke through to the legendary realm to break the seals. This might involve the help of the Grandmaster Band. In this aspect, the royal family and Pavilion of Delicacy had a unique advantage. Only the royal family and Pavilion of Delicacy had a tacit understanding with Wang Sheng. Previously, could they use this condition to ask for more? Because of this, the 8 families had to swear not to touch Duke Chongqing's residence or Mei Er's assets. In short, it was an exchange of interests. However, everyone knew that there was one person who had to be excluded from this list, and that was Wang Sheng. No matter what, from the moment Wang Sheng took Lin Ling away, the 8 families and Wang Sheng could no longer stand together. This was the bottom line. Wang Sheng had just woken up. This time, Wang Sheng slept for a full 7 hours, a deep sleep without any disturbances. During the sleep, the surrounding insects and beasts had been helping Wang Sheng to stay vigilant. The little person with battle awareness was also monitoring the surroundings, but didn't send out any warning, allowing Wang Sheng to sleep very peacefully. The first thing Wang Sheng did when he opened his eyes was to sense the movements around him. No enemies. Very good. Following that, Wang Sheng then started to pay attention to Aki. Aki's breathing was very even. The effect of the Ice Heart Dew pill was very good, allowing Aki to sleep very peacefully during this period of time. Whether it was sleeping or being unconscious, it was actually the best way to recover. Aki's current condition was already out of danger, and she was entering a period of rapid recovery. After a little tidying up, Wang Sheng ate and drank some things before he carried Aki on his back and continued on his journey. Although this place had not been disturbed for a few hours, Wang Sheng knew that the entire place would be bustling soon. Lin Ling was taken away by LV Wenho. Although this was expected by Lin Xiao and Wang Sheng, and everyone had a tacit understanding of how to deal with it, Wang Sheng was still very unhappy that Lin Ling was taken away. Even though Wang Sheng knew that it wasn't Lin Xiao, he still felt very unhappy. He came to this world and spent so much effort to find the girl of his dreams. She only spent a few hours with him when he was awake, and then she was forced to separate. At this moment, Wang Sheng hated that his cultivation level wasn't strong enough and his power wasn't big enough. If he had the power to challenge the entire world like Lin Xiao, how could he be separated from the girl of his dreams and be forced to be taken away? LV Wenho had been very gentle and smiling, but Wang Sheng knew very well that under the surface of LV Wenho's smile were the thousands of souls that died in the hands of the worry-free city assassins. That smile could become a scythe at any time. The moment Lin Ling was taken away, Wang Sheng felt exactly how the Chinese felt when they just signed the Nanjing Treaty with England. Humiliation. This feeling lasted almost until now. But Wang Sheng couldn't show it. He had to act like he didn't care. Because he couldn't be angry, he couldn't be impulsive, he could only be calm. Once he lost his calm, he might lose the girl of his dreams forever. This was the experience Wang Sheng had gained from countless battles, and it was also a lesson. The kind of guy who immediately ignited his little universe on impulse when encountering this kind of thing would definitely die the fastest. That was not the emotion a well-trained ace sniper should have. Even if they did, they should be like Wang Sheng. Once there was no more danger, they would only be able to get excited for a short period of time. Then, they would quickly cover it up with calmness. Wang Sheng was like this now. He quickly recovered his calmness and began to think about the next plan. The ultimate goal was definitely to save Lin Xiao. There might be some twists and turns in the specific operation, but the first thing he had to do was definitely to survive and leave this dangerous place of despair. At the same time, he had to try his best to cure Aki. Aki, this silly girl, was willing to die with him. All of Wang Sheng's previous distrust of her could be thrown to the back of his mind. Moreover, Aki had an important mission now, which was to pretend to be Lin Xiao and attract the firepower of the major families. Although this was to buy time for LV Wenho and distract his attention, Wang Sheng had to do it. This was also to buy time for Lin Xiao and divert the pressure on her side. As long as Lin Xiao could recover as soon as possible, Wang Sheng was willing to do anything. After finding the right direction, Wang Sheng carried Aki and began to walk toward the periphery of the Land of Despair. Leaving the Land of Despair was his primary goal. Very soon, Wang Sheng discovered that after experiencing the Godly Might Prison, the exquisite pavilion, the 8 major families, Uncle Li, and Carefree City's continuous pursuit, no one had set up an ambush in the Land of Despair. Perhaps they were frightened by Lin Xiao's massacre of the 8 major families' experts. Or perhaps it was something else. Wang Sheng didn't know. The wounds on his body had recovered a lot in a few hours, and walking was no longer hindered. With the support of the 7 words formula, Wang Sheng's speed was a bit faster than ordinary experts. This meant that Aki's injuries couldn't be too severe. Otherwise, Wang Sheng could be even faster. In the dense forest, Wang Sheng saw flying mounts flying over his head a few times. However, those flying mounts were heading straight for the glacier lake and didn't care about the situation below at all. Wang Sheng understood that this must be because they were anxious to get a share of the real secret of the Land of Despair. This was good too. With their thoughts on the other side, the pressure on Wang Sheng's side would be less. After rushing for dozens of miles, Wang Sheng finally stopped to rest. But very soon, the bugs in the surroundings gave Wang Sheng some feedback about the abnormalities in the surroundings. Along the way, he would communicate with the native bugs along the way, so the speed at which he obtained information was much faster than ordinary experts. Without another word, Wang Sheng quickly rushed to the place where the bugs had reported the abnormalities, and then he saw a mutilated corpse. This corpse was only half complete. According to Wang Sheng's calculations, he should have died within an hour. There were people around. Chapter 1476. Wang Sheng hadn't discovered anything even with the help of his combat awareness. This was outside the detection range. There was no aura of an expert around the corpse, at least within a few miles. Wang Sheng could observe without worry. Where did this guy come from? There was only half of the corpse left, so Wang Sheng couldn't tell. However, as long as one was in the Land of Thousand Despair, one's life or death depended on luck. If one's skills were not as good as others, one couldn't blame anyone. Wang Sheng didn't feel sad or anything. At this time, there were no innocent people in the Land of Thousand Despair. If it wasn't for their own greed, then it was for some purpose. Everything was risky. Death was also the path they chose. There was nothing on the corpse. It was most likely that the original equipment had been looted. Wang Sheng didn't know who killed Wang Sheng. This wasn't something he needed to worry about right now. He only needed to make sure that he was in no danger. After resting for a while, Wang Sheng continued forward. Once again, some insects expressed strange signals in the surroundings. Not far away, Wang Sheng took a detour to take a look. It was another corpse. Within 5 hours, Wang Sheng found 3 corpses. He didn't know the identity of any of them, nor did he know the killer. It wasn't until Wang Sheng found the 4th corpse, after 8 hours, that Wang Sheng found a clue. It was also a fresh corpse, but this one was even fresher. It had died less than half an hour ago. There was nothing special about the corpse, but there were no signs of a battle. It was very strange. The wounds on the body were obvious. The killer wasn't alone. This guy wasn't killed by the previous killer. It wasn't so clean and neat. It took several people to kill him. These wounds weren't the clue. The real clue was the perfume on the corpse's clothes. Only Wang Sheng's nose could smell it. When Wang Sheng was in the capital, he specially made this perfume for Mei and the beauties in the mansion. He used the highest grade ingredients and the best techniques. One of the ingredients was this unique fragrance that only Wang Sheng and some demon beasts with an extremely sensitive sense of smell could smell. A unique fragrance that required several people to work together to kill. This should be the work of those beauties in the inner yard. The ones with the strongest combat strength among them should have already reached the grounds of despair. He was working hard for Wang Sheng, killing all the experts who were not Wang Sheng. After discovering this, Wang Sheng's heart warmed. After all, there were still people secretly helping him. Even if they didn't say anything under his strong command, they were still helping him in whatever way they could. This discovery made Wang Sheng realize many things. Wang Sheng recalled that the condition of the second corpse's broken bones was somewhat familiar. At first, he thought that it was smashed by a heavy weapon. But now that he thought about it, he realized that the technique was extremely familiar. It was the technique of Taiji, old Taoist Ling Su, or were they the Qing generation experts from the Laojun Temple, or the Grand Abbey Dean? Wang Sheng didn't know, but they were the ones who had learned Taiji. Just like LV Wunho's analysis, it was impossible for the Laojun Temple to give Wang Sheng any support on the surface, lest it caused a backlash from the other 5 sects and secular forces. For this reason, the Grand Abbey Dean even personally went to the grounds of despair and transferred all the people from the Laojun Temple in the underground palace back, including old Taoist Ling Su. But how could he explain the Taiji marks on the corpse that others couldn't see but were very clear to Wang Sheng? He could only say that the Laojun Temple was also secretly helping him. As for the reason why Wang Sheng couldn't find anyone within half an hour's journey, the answer was even simpler. The first batch of flying mounts that were subdued were placed in the Laojun Temple. Besides Wang Sheng, the person who was most familiar with riding them was old Taoist Ling Su. Flying was much faster than walking for Wang Sheng, right? It wasn't that they discovered Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng was confident that he could conceal his aura well. Aki was wearing a hard mask, so she wouldn't reveal her unique aura when she was unconscious. Wang Sheng's 7 syllables Sanskrit could effectively cover up the traces of another person. Therefore, be it the Laojun Temple or the beauties in the inner yard, they only attacked anyone who appeared in the grounds of despair indiscriminately, because they were all Wang Sheng's enemies. As long as they appeared in the grounds of despair, they were definitely related to killing Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng only found 4 corpses along the way, but Wang Sheng believed that there were more than 4 corpses in the entire grounds of despair. As long as they weren't at the glacier lake, the lone masters who were still in the outskirts of the grounds of despair would probably be cleaned up in secret. Whether it was Meyer or the Laojun Temple, if they couldn't find Wang Sheng's current location, the only thing they could do was to clean up as much as they could. Even if they could only relieve a little of Wang Sheng's pressure, it would still be a good thing. After Wang Sheng thought this through, he finally laughed out loud. He felt warm in his heart, and this made the gloominess of being forcibly taken away lessen a little. However, Wang Sheng didn't plan to reveal himself and meet with them. Any contact with Wang Sheng now wouldn't be a good thing if it was discovered. Wang Sheng had already planned to face this alone when he left the capital. Why would he show up now and implicate them? The best choice was for Wang Sheng to leave the grounds of despair as fast as he could without alerting anyone. His own safety was the best reward for them. Of course, when Wang Sheng left, he would spread the news at an appropriate place to let them know that he had left the grounds of despair and leave decisively. No one would know, and it wouldn't alert the 8 great families who were busy unlocking the seal. After making up his mind, Wang Sheng's whereabouts became more and more secretive. With the ice heart dew pill left by LV Wunho, Wang Sheng and Aki's injuries recovered very well. Wang Sheng was very careful along the way. In addition, many masters were attracted by the negotiation at the glacier lake, so no one discovered their whereabouts. 3 days later, Wang Sheng had brought Aki to a place less than 100 kilometers away from the grounds of despair. What Wang Sheng didn't know was that just half a day ago, The second group of people from the 8 great clans had entered the outskirts of the land of Thousand Despair to search for the corpses of the first batch of experts. There were more than 30 of them, and they were mainly made up of experts from the other 6 great clans, excluding the Tang clan and the Song clan. They had followed Wang Sheng's tracks for 300 kilometers and were now less than 100 kilometers away from Wang Sheng when they were suddenly attacked. LV Wenho didn't forget to set up a large number of deceptive formations to mislead the people who were following them. For some reason, those masters were determined to follow Wang Sheng's tracks. After spending a lot of time, they finally found the right direction. It was a pity that the 30 or so legendary masters who were following him didn't find anyone purposefully killing lone masters. They only realized it when they were suddenly attacked. Unfortunately, it was too late. More than 20 masters wearing protective clothing attacked from the air. In one move, 17 of the 30 or so legendary masters died, and 6 were injured. Chapter 1477. The identities of these people were extremely secretive. Just by looking at their attire, one could tell that they did not want to be recognized. However, the cultivation of this group of experts was extremely terrifying. Even if a legend rank expert were to encounter them, they would still be killed instantly. In an instant, less than half of the people from the 8 great clans were left. Only 14 people who were at their peak were left. Who is it? The leaders of the 8 great clans also had the time to reprimand them before they were forced to swallow their words back into their stomachs by the powerful enemies that were attacking them. The people who attacked did not even speak to the people from the 8 great clans. They only cared about attacking ruthlessly. Communication? There was only the clash of weapons and the collision of fists and palms against bodies. Bang, bang, bang. Another 3 people were sent flying high into the air. They had already spat out a large amount of blood in the air. Just by looking at the degree of the depression in their chests, one could tell that they were definitely not going to make it. The people from the 8 great clans were shocked and angry. Where did this group of experts come from? How could they be so ruthless? What enmity did they have with the 8 great clans that they would actually be so ruthless? They had completely forgotten that when the people from the 8 great clans had dealt with the smaller clans and sects, their methods were even more ruthless than these people. In less than 2 minutes, the outcome of the battle was decided. 4 of the people who attacked were injured, but none of them died. The 37 experts from the 8 great clans were all killed. Not a single one was left alive. After another 3 minutes, all 37 corpses had been looted. Then, the corpses were carried onto the backs of 10 flying mounts that had already landed. None of the 20 or so people who had taken action said a word. They split up into different directions and flew off in different directions. Every few minutes, a corpse would be thrown to the ground. Those corpses would soon be devoured by the demonic beasts and insects in the ground of Thousand Despair. There would not be many clues left for identification. The huge ground of Thousand Despair had become the best place to destroy the corpses. More than 30 corpses were scattered in an area of 100 miles. Even if the 8 great clans had great abilities, they would not be able to pinpoint the exact location of the battle. With the speed of plant growth in the ground of Thousand Despair and the frequent activity of the demonic beasts, the area where the battle took place would become completely different in less than 2 or 3 days. Even if someone was standing there, they would not be able to imagine that someone had fought here. This was the reason why Wang Sheng could find the corpses but not the traces of a battle. The real battlefield was not here at all. The corpses were just randomly thrown down from the sky. There were at least a dozen flying mounts patrolling the skies above the lands of despair. As soon as they discovered any traces of humans below, they would immediately gather their companions or launch an attack on their own. The patriarchs and elders of the 8 great clans were still waiting at the glacier lake for the arrival of the imperial family and the other factions. However, the attentive elders of the Tang family had already discovered that apart from them and the Song family, the elders of the other 6 clans were clearly anxious. They seemed to be waiting for something. Once a messenger beast landed, they would subconsciously look in that direction. From this point of view, they should be waiting for some news. After discovering this strange situation, The elder mentioned his discovery to the great elder and the patriarch. The Tang clan's old patriarch swept a glance over there. His expression did not change, but he secretly gave the Song clan's great elder a hint. The 8 great clans were not a monolithic entity. On the surface, everyone seemed to be in harmony with each other, but internally, there were endless disputes. The Song clan's great elder was also a sly old fox. He chuckled and nodded, as a reply to the Tang clan's old patriarch. He already knew about this matter. When another messenger beast landed, the Sure clan's elder could not hold it in any longer. He walked over to ask about it. When he heard that it was only a messenger beast from the capital, a look of disappointment appeared on his face. Why are you in such a hurry? What news are you waiting for? Song Yin had already been reminded by the great elder. She was only the temporary patriarch, and she was the youngest among all of them. She was even younger than Dai Xiao, so it was most appropriate for her to ask. It seemed like a casual question, but it caused the expressions of the elders of the other 6 clans to change drastically. At this moment, even the patriarchs of the other clans realized that something was wrong. If something had happened, how could they not know? After all, they had always been with the patriarchs and great elders. They had never given any instructions in private. How could their own clans cause trouble without informing them? What's going on? The Gan clan's great elder immediately asked the elder from his clan. His tone was firm. At the same time, he glanced at Dai Xiao. Was it the Dai family causing trouble again? Dai Xiao quickly got up and waved her hand. It has nothing to do with me. I've been here the entire time. I don't know anything. The faces of the patriarchs didn't look good. They looked at the elders like nails. Speak. The Gan family's leader ordered the elder who was waiting for the news. The majesty of the family master made the elder, who had a fluke in his heart, finally couldn't hold on anymore. He could only lower his head and report. We sent more than 30 masters to search for the whereabouts of the previous group of masters. They found the place where they fought at that time, and also found the traces of Duke Chongqing's departure, so we made the decision to let them follow. What? The Gan family's leader was just sitting and listening, but he immediately got up upon hearing this. The Feng family's leader also stood up with the Gan family's leader. The other 4 family leaders didn't lose their composure like this, but their faces were very bad. Out of the previous batch of 400 or so legendary masters, only 40 or so came back alive. This batch only had 30 or so, who gave him the guts to hunt Wang Sheng and Lin Ling. The clan leaders and great elders of the 8 great clans all focused their gazes on the young elder of the Gan clan. No matter how illustrious his background was, he was nothing in front of these people. With so many gazes focused on him, even though he was a person of high status and authority, the moment these gazes landed on him, the elder of the Gan clan broke out in cold sweat. It was Brother Shi's idea. Under the pressure, this little elder revealed the mastermind without hesitation. He wasn't the one who started it. Why should he take the blame for others? He didn't feel guilty at all. Brother Shi said that the Lin family's master was already weak. After that battle, he must be even weaker. Our masters checked the marks on the road and found that Duke Chongqing and that woman didn't walk fast. Some footprints clearly showed that they were heavily injured and needed to support each other. They didn't even have time to clean the marks. So, with this explanation, everyone immediately understood what they were planning. However, more people were glaring at the elder of the Shi family, who came up with the idea. What's the result? Song Yan's voice didn't sound pressured at all. There were no Song family masters among them. Chapter 1478. The result? If they knew the result, what else would they say? Wasn't it because they couldn't wait for any reply that they were so anxious? They did it behind the family head and the first elder's back. If they succeeded, it would be a great achievement. But if they failed, it would be a great sin. The 2 extremely weak experts had fought against more than 50 experts from the Pavilion of Delicacy and more than 300 legendary warriors from the 8 major families. Even if they were gods, they would be on the verge of death. Even the masters who had sent back the news that they had found traces that were even worse than those of ordinary people would be tempted. 37 legend rank experts were chasing after two extremely weak and an unconscious woman. Not to mention these elders, even the 37 experts were extremely tempted. In fact, the real suggestions were made by 2 or 3 of them. When the news was sent here, it was intercepted by the elders. They only sent the news about the traces, not their suggestions. The elders were in charge of the news of the monster messengers, so they could easily send some fake edicts. They felt that it was a good opportunity, so they made such an arrangement under the suggestion of the elder of the Sure family. What's the latest news? The family head of the Tang family looked down and asked slowly. Duke Changsheng deliberately misled them and made them waste more than 2 days. Now they have found the right direction and are following them. The elder of the Sure family answered quickly. Elder Sure answered quickly. At this time, none of them dare to hide anything. The traces are very fresh. Duke Changsheng and the others left for at most 2 hours. How long has it been since they received the news? The family head of the Feng family asked. More than 4 hours, almost 6 hours, the elder of the Sure family answered obediently. Alas, more than a dozen clear sighs were heard almost at the same time. A group of legendary masters have been chasing 2 people who can't even walk steadily for more than 2 days. Isn't that enough for you to understand something? Song Yin began to mock them. I'm so stupid, but even I understand it. Can't you think of it? They were only 2 hours away, but there was no news for 6 hours. What would the result be? After so many years of experience, couldn't they figure it out? Why were the few little elders so anxious? Could it be that they didn't know what this meant? On the contrary, it was precisely because they had already thought of the possible outcome that they were so anxious. 37 legend rank experts. Each of his 6 families had an average of 6. They had just lost 50, and each of the 6 families had been stabbed, losing another 6. The patriarchs and great elders of the 6 clans were so distressed that they wanted to cry. These guys who were incapable of accomplishing anything but good at spoiling things, how could they casually decide this kind of thing? If the 8 great clans lost a bit of power, it meant that the imperial family and the smaller clans and powers would have more say, and their voices would be louder. However, this was not the scariest thing. The scariest thing was the internal affairs of the 8 great clans. Everyone had already suffered heavy losses, but the Tang and Song families were not among the last batch of experts to set out. In the words of the 2 clans, the returning experts were enough to tell them everything, and there was no need to send more people. But how could the 6 clans dare to believe it? If it wasn't a report from his own family, who would be at ease? This was the result of the 6 families sending out the second batch of experts. Now, the 37 legend rank experts that were sent out were definitely gone, and the strength of the 6 families was further weakened. The Tang and Song families were probably going to take a bigger share. The 6 elders who acted on their own were removed from their positions on the spot. Luckily, they were still Stage 9 masters. Now was the time to use people, so they were still useful. Otherwise, they would be crippled. No matter what the motive was, the last thing a superior could do was provoke their own dignity. Using their own name to issue orders and falsifying edicts was usually a crime punishable by execution and confiscation of property. What was even more unbelievable was Wang Sheng and Lin Ling Aki was unconscious, and the Tang and Song family's experts had already reported that she had no combat power at all. The experts of the 2 families only saw Lin Ling. The 2 of them were so weak, yet they could easily finish off 37 legend rank experts. There wasn't even a messenger. This was shocking. Everyone knew Wang Sheng's situation. Just how powerful was Lin Ling? If Lin Ling was already this terrifying, then how powerful were the 24 ancestors sealed here? All of a sudden, the various families were shaken by the idea of releasing the 24 ancestors from a seal. Were they really going to release them because of the secret they were guarding? This was the 3rd day. The people from the royal family and other clans were about to arrive. It wasn't a good thing to be shaken like this. Everyone's mood was completely ruined, and they were all deeply worried. Wang Sheng didn't know that the 8 families were shocked again. From start to finish, Wang Sheng and Aki didn't encounter a single enemy. They just saw a few bodies. But knowing that someone was supporting him, Wang Sheng was in a very good mood. This formed a sharp contrast with the people on the glacier lake. Aki's condition was getting better and better. Her breathing was even and her expression was serene. Her injuries weren't fatal anymore. It was just a matter of time before she recovered. As for Wang Sheng himself, his condition was even better. After taking 4 Ice Heart Dew pills in the past 2 days, Wang Sheng's internal injuries were under control. On the 3rd day, which was when he was resting, Wang Sheng began to take the nature pills that he always carried with him. The effect of the fortune pill was even more domineering. The combination of the 7-word chant and the fortune pill almost healed 80% of Wang Sheng's internal and external injuries. Wang Sheng's body didn't seem to be injured at all. After resting for another 2 hours, Wang Sheng carried Aki on his back and set off on the road to leave the land of Thousand Despair. This was the road Wang Sheng had specially chosen. After leaving the land of Thousand Despair, they would arrive at the border of the country of Song. Wang Sheng didn't want to go to the carefree city or the capital. The land of Thousand Despair was surrounded by the 8 families, so he could only choose the country of Song, which had the least hostility. What was more suitable was that there was a river that was more than 200 miles long, starting from the land of Thousand Despair. If Wang Sheng took the water route, not only would he be much faster, but he would also save a lot of effort. The area near the edge of the land of Thousand Despair was less populated. At least for these 200 miles, Wang Sheng could bring Aki into the country of Song without anyone noticing. Sitting on the boat, Wang Sheng controlled the direction of the motor and quickly moved against the current, charging out of the dense forest. The land of Thousand Despair was soon left behind by Wang Sheng's speedboat. Chapter 1479. The speed of the speedboat was much faster than Wang Sheng's walking speed, but it was much more stable than Wang Sheng's. It was also beneficial to Aki's recovery. Outside of the grounds of Thousand Extremes, the range of the tiny person's senses was much smaller, but Wang Sheng's senses and the 7-word formula were still quite sharp. Without the cover of the dense forest of the grounds of Thousand Extremes, Wang Sheng's sense of sight, hearing, and smell were greatly improved. They weren't affected by the tiny person's influence. Now, almost no one would wander around the borders of the grounds of Thousand Extremes. Most of the experts from the various clans would use flying mounts to reach the grounds of Thousand Extremes. It was faster and less troublesome. Why would they want to trek through the dense forest of the grounds of Thousand Extremes? Ever since the various clans had publicly announced how many flying mounts they controlled, they no longer hid it and took it all out. This allowed Wang Sheng to easily exit the grounds of Thousand Extremes. Following the river upstream, he entered the Song clan's territory by more than 100 miles. When he discovered signs of human habitation ahead, Wang Sheng reached the shore ahead of time and stealthily left the river with Aki, avoiding human habitation. It was almost dusk, and Wang Sheng rested for half a day with Aki. When it was late at night, Wang Sheng easily carried Aki through the Song clan's small town without anyone noticing. Even in the Song clan's territory, Wang Sheng was careful and deliberately leaned towards the Song clan's and the Dai clan's borders. When Wang Sheng and Song Yin were being chased by the Dai clan, Wang Sheng had learned a lot about the geography of this area. Now it was coming in handy. On the 3rd morning after emerging from the grounds of Thousand Extremes, Aki finally woke up. Under the dual nourishment of Wang Sheng's Ice Heart Dew pills and the 7-word formula, Aki was finally able to survive from the brink of death. The moment Aki opened her eyes, Wang Sheng, who had been monitoring Aki's condition, let out a long sigh of relief. At least none of the people around him had lost their lives because of this. Although in Wang Sheng's heart, Aki's priority wasn't as high as Aki's, Wang Sheng was still happy that Aki could live. Ever since the second batch of 37 legend rank experts had disappeared without a trace in the land of Thousand Despair, the 8 great clans had not sent anyone to hunt down Wang Sheng. They couldn't care less about looking for trouble with Wang Sheng now. The leaders of the imperial family and other small families and forces had all rushed to Glacier Lake. All parties set up their carriages and started to negotiate the secrets of the core of the ground of Thousand Despair. Regardless of whether it was the 24 sealed seniors or the things they were guarding, they were all arguing endlessly. Quarreling was one thing, but the goal was to fight for benefits, and everyone could accept it. Also, everyone was waiting for the water level of the glacier lake to drop. Over the past 6 or 7 days, the water level of the glacier lake had dropped by over 100 feet. Furthermore, as the lake's surface shrunk, the rate of decline seemed to be accelerating. And at most 10 days, the entire bottom of the lake would be exposed. Under the protection of the 3 great consecrators, the emperor personally rushed to Glacier Lake. Another unexpected person was Mei-Er. Mei-Er also rushed to Glacier Lake under the protection of Tantai Yao and dozens of beauties from the inner courtyard. Her purpose in coming here was to fight for the benefits that the Grandmaster Band and the group of Grandmasters who were close to Wang Sheng were entitled to. Now, everyone had a consensus that in order to open the seal, they would probably have to use the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to temper their bodies when breaking through to the legend rank. And those who understood Wang Sheng basically knew that Wang Sheng's advancement process had always been longer than ordinary people. Therefore, it couldn't be just one expert who broke through. There had to be at least 2 or at least 3. This was the basic requirement. Of course, the more, the better. Rely on various experts to cultivate to the limit and then break through? That would be a long wait. Other than a few, almost all the current legend rank experts broke through with the help of the Grandmaster's concert. Let the current legend rank experts guide those 9th stage experts to break through. They didn't even know how they broke through properly. Was it possible? They could ask old Taoist Ling Su for help, but the old Taoist and Wang Sheng were hardcore. He had already said that he would go back to the Lao Jun temple for closed-door cultivation, so it was impossible to find him. Therefore, the only way was to find the Grandmaster Band. But the Grandmaster Band also had an extraordinary relationship with Wang Sheng. When they announced to the public that they would go into closed-door cultivation to study music theory, they directly stayed in Duke Chongqing's residence. If they wanted to invite them, there was no other way but to look for Mei-Er. It was possible to look for the Pavilion Master of Linglong, but the problem was that there were more than 50 corpses of the Pavilion Master of Linglong, which explained a lot of things. No matter how stupid the 8 great clans were, they knew that the Pavilion Master of Linglong could no longer command those music grandmasters. Mei-Er was here on behalf of them, and, at the same time, on behalf of a group of grandmasters. Without the environment of a grand theater, it was impossible to advance just by listening to music. Therefore, a mini-theater was needed. It was impossible without the help of those grandmasters of Linglong and the 2 grandmasters of musical formation. The higher-ups of the 8 great clans faced this situation helplessly. They wanted Wang Sheng dead very much, but they couldn't do it without Wang Sheng's help. Fortunately, under the strong advocacy of the Song family, all parties calmly restrained themselves and reached a subtle tacit agreement with the forces of Duke Chongqing's residence, which was led by Mei-Er. As long as Wang Sheng didn't use the forces in the capital, they wouldn't suppress Mei-Er and the others in the capital. Both sides could be said to be in harmony. Now, the benefits of all parties' calmness and restraint were revealed. At least on these matters, everyone could talk. But it was still the same premise. As long as Wang Sheng wasn't involved, everything else was negotiable. Although Mei-Er was very reluctant to do so, she was also very clear that Wang Sheng taking Lin Xiu away had touched the taboo of all the families and forces in the world. The forces that could survive to this day, as long as they had a long history, almost all participated in the siege of the Lin family. Wang Sheng was going against the whole world. Among them, this even included the royal family. The royal family was also one of the vested interests in the past, but it wasn't as big as the cake that the Tang, Song, Shi, Dai, and Xiu families got. But with the reputation of the royal family, they belonged to the second echelon, like the Xia, Feng, and Gan families. The emperor and the empress were Mei-Er's biological parents. In the face of Wang Sheng's situation, Mei-Er was also in a dilemma. If Mei-Er was still the young shopkeeper of Baoqing Yutang, it would be simple. She could directly deal with Wang Sheng. But now, under the influence of all parties, under the command of Wang Sheng, she had to stand in this position. She had to protect herself, and, at the same time, she had to protect everything that Wang Sheng wanted her to protect. The Grandmaster Band can help. Li Jianfang can produce advanced experts and also a small theater. Mei completely released her four-tailed celestial fox charm and fought for benefits with the leaders of all parties. What can our Li Jianfang get? Chapter 1480. Strictly speaking, Mei was not the pinnacle of beauty. At least, the Empress was much more outstanding than Mei in terms of figure and appearance. However, when Mei completely unleashed the charm of the four-tailed heavenly fox, even the elders of the various families, who usually held high positions and had countless beauties trying to curry favor with just a casual call from them, and could be said to be experienced and knowledgeable old fellows, when faced with Mei's incomparably beautiful and extremely attractive face, these old fellows were dazzled and bewitched. Song Yin was among them. However, as a rival in love, she was extremely wary of Mei, especially when she saw Mei exuding such a seductive aura and seducing the people around her. She was instantly infuriated and could not help but snort coldly. Song Yan's voice was not soft, and there was a trace of spiritual energy in it. The surrounding people, who were attracted by Mei's preemptive display, immediately realized that they had lost their composure. They all coughed and forced themselves to calm down. For a moment, the scene was filled with coughs. Mei glared at Song Yan fiercely. Song Yan's cold snort had ruined her plan, causing her to glare at Song Yan. Song Yan did not show any weakness and stared back at her. The two women were like two red-eyed fighting cocks. They glared at each other, as if they wanted to swallow the other into their stomachs. An invisible aura collided in the air. If it was exaggerated, the people around them could see the intense sparks in the center of the two women's gazes. Basically, when Wang Sheng was still in the capital, the two women had not seen each other. Even when Song Yan went to the capital, Mei would always avoid her. At that time, the two women were in a situation where they could not see each other. On the other hand, when Song Yan returned to the Song Kingdom, the two women had some correspondence and even sent each other gifts. In short, enemies were not enemies, and friends were not friends. It was a strange relationship. In this strange situation, the two women really came face to face. When they saw each other, it felt like there were sparks of battle. Which of the old foxes present didn't know about the relationship between the two women? It was a good opportunity for him to watch a good show and let them fight endlessly. He could also benefit from it. Oomph, oomph. Two loud, cold snorts sounded almost at the same time. Then, the two girls averted their gazes and looked elsewhere. They were no longer at each other's throats. Fine. Since the show was over, the group of old foxes could only return to the present and start to ponder the question that Mei had asked earlier. What could Li Jianfang gain? Tianzi, who was not far away, looked at all this with a smile on his face and didn't say anything. The Grandmaster Orchestra, the miniature theater, and experts who wanted to advance were all necessary. If they wanted to open the seal, they couldn't be avoided. We have our own experts who can advance to the next stage. We don't need your help. Song Yin said bluntly to Mei. You have more. Mei's face revealed a surprised expression. She faced Song Yin again and looked at her from head to toe for a while before nodding and saying, It seems that you're also going to advance. Sure, as long as you have your own people, we don't need to provide. After saying that, she suddenly turned to Dai Xiao. Mei smiled and said, Dai Xiao is probably going to advance too, right? No problem at all. You can pick anyone you want. I don't need to send anyone here. Seeing that Mei suddenly became so easy to talk to, everyone was a little surprised. Mei, who had made a name for herself in Qiansheng Yuan Runzifang and Li Jianfang, just gave up on this condition. However, if your people can't advance during the Grandmaster Orchestra and can't open the seal, then if you want to use our people, you will have to double the price. Mei said lightly. Her tone was calm, But the charm of the four-tailed celestial fox had unknowingly attracted everyone's attention. After all, the Grandmaster Orchestra has to perform again, so everything has to be redone. No matter what the conditions are, it's not too much to ask for twice the price, is it? The Grandmaster Orchestra's performance was a great opportunity to help people advance. Although a group of people had advanced a few months ago, who would be willing to give up such an opportunity for their children to advance? However, what Mayer said made sense. If the people sent by the families couldn't advance, then they wouldn't be able to open the seal. The Grandmasters would have to work hard, and Mayer's people would have to advance as well. Was it too much to ask for double the price? That would require all parties to weigh the pros and cons. Should they make use of this opportunity to increase the chances of those disciples who might or might not advance to the legendary realm? Or should they let Mayer's people break the seal as a safety measure? Of course, the most important thing was what Li Junfeng wanted. If they didn't want much, then it didn't matter if they asked for twice the price. They would just treat it as the price they had to pay for their children's breakthrough. The Tang family will issue 500 million gold coins and gold notes. Is that okay? The Tang family's patriarch was astute. Since Mayer's name was Li Junfeng, then he would use Li Junfeng's business to exchange for the Tang family's conditions. In any case, the Tang family didn't have enough gold notes now. They needed to issue new gold notes from the Tang family sooner or later. Yes, Mayer nodded without hesitation. The Tang family had 500 million gold coins. Of course, there was no problem. The Li Junfeng issued gold notes, but other families had to deposit gold coins or gold nuggets first. 500 million gold coins as collateral was enough for Mayer to agree. The Song family also has 500 million gold coins. Song Yin followed closely behind the Tang family's patriarch and opened his mouth. He seemed to be following the Tang family's lead. After the Tang and Song families opened their mouths, the others followed suit. In any case, it was just gold coins. It would be the same even if they were exchanged for gold notes. Li Junfeng didn't intend to use this to cheat the other parties. The 8 great clans had 500 million gold coins on average. The imperial family also had 500 million gold coins. The other small clans and forces had 100 to 200 million gold coins, and some even had 50 to 60 million gold coins. In short, the total was more than 8 billion gold coins. It could be said that the Li Junfeng's business was extremely profitable. From the amount of money each family promised, it could be seen that, at least in terms of finances, the small sects and forces combined were about the same as the 8 great clans. An additional request. Each party stated their own amount. Mayer accepted. In the end, Mayer made a separate request. Any musical scores or music-related parts found inside must be copied to me. Everyone frowned when they heard Mayer's additional request. However, after hearing Mayer's specific request, all the people in charge looked at each other and nodded. It was just a musical score and a copy. There was no problem at all. They would just treat it as forming a good relationship with the music grandmasters. Chapter 1481. Mayer's side was easy to deal with. A problem that could be solved with gold coins was not a problem. To all parties, it was the easiest. However, they would have to fight over the distribution of benefits between them. Mayer did not participate in this. Anyway, her main purpose of coming here had been achieved. With this batch of gold coins and gold notes, it could be said that Li Junfeng had another layer of protection, making it even safer. No one wanted to be unable to exchange their gold notes. Hence, the more gold notes they had, the safer Li Junfeng would be. However, no one, including the emperor, Mayer's father, knew that Mayer's main purpose of coming here was to help Wang Sheng clear all the enemies in the land of Thousand Despair. Among the people she brought out, there were not only the dozens of music grandmasters, but also a few craftsman grandmasters. There were dozens of beauties in the inner courtyard. The old Taoist Ling Su also joined in halfway. However, after the old Taoist made a few moves, he directly entered the land of Thousand Despair. The last message he sent out was to tell Mayer that Wang Sheng had already left and that there was no need to worry. Even without these gains, Mayer was still happy. What the people from the big families did not know was that even if they asked Mayer to help them for free, Mayer would be happy to do it. Releasing the ancestors of the 24 families was a mixed blessing for the big families. However, it was beneficial for Wang Sheng. Although Mayer did not know why, since Wang Sheng was willing to release the news, it must be beneficial for Wang Sheng. Hence, it was right for Mayer to come and help push for the next step. Mayer knew that the people she recruited with gold coins would not be so loyal. Hence, her biggest reliance now was Rosa and the hundreds of beauties in the inner courtyard. With their current strength, Li Jinfeng was still not strong enough to fight against the great families. Hence, Mayer would crazily nurture them. The Grandmaster Band played every day, the 14th-stage Realm King cuttlefish meat was eaten every day, all kinds of medicinal pills were provided crazily, and the best array was crazily stimulated. All the beauties in the inner courtyard, including Mayer, had their cultivations increased crazily. Dozens of particularly outstanding ones were already on the verge of advancing. This was also the reason why Mayer could guarantee that her people would definitely advance. With so many people advancing to the next level in front of the various factions, they would know the strength of Li Jinfeng. This would also serve as a deterrent. While they were waiting for the water level of Glacier Lake to drop, the parties fought fiercely. After 6 or 7 days of negotiations and quarrels, they finally came to a conclusion. Each party had determined their share, how much effort they should put in, and how much profit they should get. While everyone was arguing, Wang Sheng was leisurely heading north with Aki. Now, Wang Sheng and Aki were no longer in a sorry state like when they were fleeing for their lives. Wang Sheng brought quite a number of gold notes and easily bought a comfortable carriage and everything he needed in a town in the country of Song. 3 carriages, 3 coachmen, 2 maids, and a chef. Wang Sheng and Aki were like 2 lovers on a sightseeing tour. They sat in the carriage and headed north at a moderate pace. One carriage carried those servants, another carriage carried Wang, Sheng, and Aki, and the last carriage carried some things needed for the journey. If someone was tracking them, they would absolutely not notice this small convoy. They were only tracking Wang Sheng and Lin Xiao, at most adding Aki, but the number of people in this convoy was wrong. Aki's injuries made her move like an ordinary person. Wang Sheng, on the other hand, was proficient in disguise and infiltration. Ordinary people would not be able to tell that he was a powerful expert. No one in the country of Song would pay attention to an ordinary small convoy. Those with low cultivation were diligently cultivating, while those with high cultivation were busy in the capital and the land of Thousand Despair. As a result, no one noticed Wang Sheng bringing Aki all the way into the capital of the country of Song. In times of emergency, the more dangerous the place was, the safer it was. No one would have thought that Wang Sheng would bring Aki into the capital of the country of Song. Therefore, Wang Sheng was 10 times safer here than the land of Thousand Despair. In the capital of the country of Song, Wang Sheng and Aki stayed for 2 days, allowing Aki to further recover. There were a total of 8 icy heart dew pills left by LV Wenho, and Aki ate the last one. When the efficacy of the pill was exhausted, Aki could already barely raise her chi and cultivate. Once she could use spiritual chi, her recovery would be very fast. Wang Sheng's 7 words formula of 9 secret words was the most powerful aid in this situation. Aki's recovery speed was almost doubled. When Wang Sheng and Aki left the capital, like normal people of the country of Song, the water level of the Glacier Lake finally dropped to the lowest point, revealing a large frozen area with a circumference of 20 miles. This was the only frozen area left in the core area of the land of Thousand Despair. Although it had no effect on the experts of the 9th degree realm or the legendary realm, walking on it would not feel comfortable. The experts of the 8 great clans were deeply touched. A few months ago, this place was still more than 1,000 feet deep. They dived into the water one by one and felt the ice on the bottom of the lake inch by inch. Just thinking about it was a nightmare. At this moment, hundreds of experts from various forces gathered here. They quickly searched the area with a circumference of 20 miles without leaving any blind spots. The metal pipe that Wang Sheng used to go deep into the seal formation was also found. The formation's sealing Lin Ling and Lin Xiao had lost its effect, so the ice above the formation had melted quite a bit, revealing one end of the metal pipe. Everyone was just worrying about how to break the seal below so that the legendary realm could go down. It was a pleasant surprise to find this tunnel. Apart from the surprise, the 8 families were getting more and more concerned. How did Wang Sheng find the exact location at a depth of 1,000 feet underwater? How did he melt the ice and connect the pipes together? Thinking about how Wang Sheng could do this, it was like a miracle. Song Yin was there at the time. She volunteered and slid down the tunnel first. Soon, everyone arrived at Lin Ling's sealed area and went down into the lava lake. The experts who had been inside for almost a month finally saw the bosses of the various forces. They went to their respective leaders and introduced the situation below. The 24 energy source stone pillars of the sealing formation had all been found, and they were only waiting for an order to cut off the energy source. After understanding the situation and exclaiming about the power of the world and the ancestors, they had a small meeting and officially decided on the order to break the seal. Starting from the edge, they would slowly gather towards the center. Everyone believed that the closer to the center, the better the thing. Perhaps the Guardian would be the most terrifying one. Rumble, the energy source stone pillars at the edge of the south were destroyed by 108 legendary realm masters at the same time. The representatives of the 8 families, the Imperial family, and a few smaller forces entered the seal formation. Chapter 1482. This was the first time the various family heads saw the complete sealing formation. Who would have thought that the people sealed in the ice pillars could actually live for 500 years? But all of this actually happened in front of their eyes. If this could really become a reality, in the future, if they had any illnesses or cultivation problems that were difficult to cure at their current stage, they could directly use this formation to seal them. After a few decades or hundreds of years, when they could solve everything, wouldn't that be pretty good? Everything depended on the actual effect. After everyone saw it, they nodded at each other and made way for the 2 music formation grandmasters and a few crafting grandmasters to come in and observe the terrain. A part of the mini-theater was ready-made, but that part was for the music grandmasters to use, including the conductor and performing members. It definitely couldn't be placed in the space of the sealing formation. Therefore, the other part of the sound transmission formation had to be extended from the bottom to the top of the sealing area. This needed to be temporarily built according to the different conditions on the scene so that the advanced experts could use it. Everyone started to select the candidates for advancement. A few crafting grandmasters started to temporarily build the temporary part of the theater, and the music formation grandmasters started to design the temporary sound transmission formation. Everything was done in an orderly manner. For the sake of the order in which the descendants of the various families would advance, the various parties fought over it again. About 10 experts were placed in each sealing formation area to ensure that there were enough people who advanced to the next stage so that they could trigger a larger spiritual energy mass to break the seal. Everyone was unfamiliar with the first sealing formation. Just setting up these things took 8 days. This was already the fastest speed, and almost not a minute was wasted. The first batch of selected disciples sat quietly around the sealing formation, sitting in a circle around the huge ice pillar. They were already prepared, waiting for the Grandmaster's performance to help them advance. Outside the sound transmission formation were the representatives chosen by the 5 family heads and elders. They were in charge of observing the situation of the unsealing formation, and at the same time, they were responsible for communicating with the sealed ancestors after the seal was unsealed. Master Yu and the rest were already prepared below. After the signal from above to start, Master Yu waved the conductor's baton, and the band began to perform. The first batch of selected disciples were the ones that each family thought had the highest chance of advancing. 6 of them weren't from the 8 big families. In the previous 4 concerts, the 8 great clans and the royal family had taken up most of the slots, and the other small forces had not gotten much. Only now did they have a real chance. It had to be said that the people chosen by the various parties were very appropriate, especially those chosen by the small forces. Less than 2 hours after the great Grandmaster's performance began, 2 of the experts chosen by the small forces began to break through, triggering the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to temper their bodies. In less than an hour, the experts chosen by the remaining 4 small forces also began to make breakthroughs one after another. They formed a small-scale spiritual energy mass, which gradually consumed the energy of the ceiling formation. What made one embarrassed was that out of the 4 9th-stage realm top exponents chosen by the 8 families, none of them had advanced. It could only be said that the 8 great clans had monopolized the previous 20,000 opportunities, and they had used up almost all of their experts with potential. The ones left were ordinary experts who could not be promoted in a short period of time. The small spiritual energy mass formed by the advancement of the 6 top exponents effectively consumed the energy of the ceiling formation. The 5 higher management who were observing from the outside could see that the sealed ice pillar was melting bit by bit as time went by, shrinking its diameter. This advancement took more than 4 days, although it was less than half of Wang Sheng's advancement time. But it was after all a small spiritual energy mass accumulated by the 6 of them. By the time the 6 of them had completed their advancement, that sealed ice pillar was only left with a thin layer. The people outside could almost see what the sealed senior looked like. But after all, it was all for naught. After this round of advancement, the unfriendly gazes from various parties directly fell onto the people from the 8 great clans. If it wasn't for the fact that none of the 4 people they had arranged had advanced, how would it become like this? The higher management of the 8 great clans themselves knew that they were in the wrong, so they avoided everyone's gazes and pretended to observe the changes in the ceiling formation, not saying a single word. The few of them had seen it, but hadn't exchanged any conclusions. Just as the Grand Elder of the Xia family was observing in detail in front of the ice pillar, that expert who seemed to have been frozen solid 500 years ago and was still waiting for the last part to melt suddenly opened his eyes. Kacha! A hand stretched out directly from the thin layer of ice, locking onto the throat of the Xia family's Grand Elder with incomparable accuracy. Immediately following that, there was another burst of shattering sound. The last part of the ice pillar had been completely shattered by the expert inside. The Grand Elder of the Xia family was directly grabbed by the neck with one hand and lifted up more than 1 foot high. Under that terrifying expert's terrifying strength, the 9th-stage realm peak Grand Elder of the Xia family actually didn't have the slightest bit of resistance. The sudden turn of events made everyone jump in fright. Before the crowd could react, that expert in the ice pillar had already shouted out coldly, "Who are you? What are you trying to do?" Along with his words, an indescribably terrifying aura spread out. It was just a single question, but everyone present was enveloped in that terrifying atmosphere. In just 10 days, Wang Sheng had already brought Aki all the way to the northernmost part of the Kingdom of Song. 3 days ago, Wang Sheng had dismissed the coachmen and servants, allowing them to bring a bunch of valuables that Wang Sheng and Aki didn't need back to their respective homes. There was no more road to the north, and the horse carriage had become a decoration. For the rest of the journey, there was no need for them at all. Now, the area where Wang Sheng and Aki were at was a vast expanse of whiteness. The northernmost part of the land was deserted, and ordinary people had no way of surviving here. If one had to compare the climate, this was a relatively less extreme place, the core of the land of 1,000 extremities. A few more days of travel would be Wang Sheng and Aki's destination. No outsiders would come to that place, and it was suitable for people like Wang Sheng who were chased by the whole world to live. Aki's injuries had already improved greatly. In the past half a month, she had already recovered to the 3rd stage realm cultivation. She didn't need Wang Sheng's help to move around at all. Once things had settled down, it would take at most a month's time to be able to recover to the peak of her cultivation. Aki, when we reach the place and your body has recovered, I'll teach you how to break through your current cultivation realm. Wang Sheng said to Aki, who was hugging him from behind as he breathed out white smoke while driving the snowmobile forward. Duke Changsheng is indeed in a good mood to bring a beauty out to play in a world of ice and snow. Before Aki could reply, a sudden voice rang in their ears. We've been waiting for Duke Changsheng for a long time. Chapter 1483. Us. There was more than one enemy. Wang Sheng used all his senses and the seven-word formula's spiritual energy to probe, but he did not discover a second person in the surroundings. He only discovered the first person after the other party spoke. Just from the aura alone, Wang Sheng understood that the other party was at least a legend rank expert. The other party had overestimated himself. He wanted to appear in the snowy land and was at least 100 feet away from Wang Sheng. Would Wang Sheng fall for this trick? If it were an ordinary person, they would definitely stop and prepare for battle. However, Wang Sheng was different. After discovering the enemy's position, he turned the snowmobile around and activated his spiritual energy. The array stone spun at the highest speed and sped off in another direction. The other party did not expect Wang Sheng to run away without even saying a word. Not only did everything they had planned out become useless, but they also had no choice but to make use of the people they had set up to ambush Wang Sheng. Otherwise, with Wang Sheng gone, it would be pointless for them to lay an ambush for another 100 days. Chase! The first expert did not care about anything else and hurriedly ordered, "Those in front, block them." Following his order, dozens of snow holes suddenly appeared on the originally white, snowy land. Dozens of figures flew out from the holes and chased after Wang Sheng. Seeing this, Wang Sheng instantly understood what was going on. The double-story ice house in the glacier basin could shield the aura of the people inside from being discovered by the powerful demonic beasts outside. This was a unique skill that Wang Sheng had taught the various clans. He did not expect these bastards to use it on Wang Sheng. He did not know how long they had come here in advance, but they had already finished setting up. He did not know what method they had used to flatten the marks on the snow. It was probably to block him. Wang Sheng found it strange. Who were these people? How did they know that he was coming here? After all, the moment that guy spoke, he said that he had been waiting for a long time. Be it from his words or their actions, it showed that this was a premeditated action and not an impromptu one. Did they expose themselves in the Song Nation? Wang Sheng thought about what he had experienced in the past few days and inwardly shook his head. Wang Sheng had been very careful along the way. He had used many of the infiltration and disguise techniques he had learned on Earth. It was impossible for him to expose his identity. Otherwise, someone would have made a move in the Song clan's capital instead of waiting until here. Of course, it was also possible that these fellows wanted to take everything for themselves. That was why they didn't make a move, even though they had seen through his tracks. Instead, they figured out his destination based on the route he had taken along the way and decided to block him here in advance. If that was the case, these people were definitely not from the Song family. It was impossible for the Song family to give up their home advantage and come to this godforsaken place. As for the other party's identity, it was undoubtedly one or two of the other 7 great clans. Right in front of Wang Sheng's snowmobile, there was an expert hiding in a snow cave. As soon as he heard the leader's order, he immediately rushed out. However, Wang Sheng had already activated the 7 words formula's detection radar. The moment he appeared, Wang Sheng had already discovered his tracks. With a stretch of his hand, the heavy sniper crossbow appeared in his hand. At such a close distance, Wang Sheng raised his hand and shot an arrow. He didn't even need to aim. He directly used the heavy sniper crossbow as a handgun. Even though the other party was prepared, the moment he emerged from the snow, he was struck by a heavy arrow. The expert was shocked. Unable to stop Wang Sheng, he leaped to the side and dodged to the side. The heavy sniper crossbow was famous for its heavy arrows. Even a legendary expert wouldn't dare to take an arrow easily. Fortunately, his dodging speed was fast. The heavy arrow flew past the expert's boot. The arrow directly cut the soft skin of the boot into 2 halves. At the same time, it also detonated the array on the arrowhead. Boom! The explosion at the bottom of the boot blasted the expert several meters away, and he fell heavily into the snow. Even though most of the explosive power had been absorbed by the boot that was padded with the 8-stage demon beast bone, there was no way to eliminate the shock. For a moment, the expert couldn't immediately get up and give chase. In such a short period of time, Wang Sheng's snowmobile had already rushed past the expert and went all the way to the north, leaving more than 10 experts behind. Watching Wang Sheng and Aki riding a snowmobile away, more than 10 experts looked at each other in dismay. The leader who spoke first was furious and ordered, "Chase." He took the lead and put 2 skis on the soles of his feet. He held 2 walking sticks in his hands and quickly chased after them. The Song family had seen Wang Sheng's snowmobile and mud motorcycle, but other families hadn't seen it. However, these people were well prepared. It was likely that they had learned how to survive in the snow before entering the glacier basin. They even took out the skis used by the northern people and gave one to each of them. The speed of a legendary expert who was sliding with all his might was not to be underestimated. In just a short period of time, he had caught up with them and was about 100 feet behind. Wang Sheng's snowmobile could no longer pull away from them. "His heavy arrow can't hurt us," the expert who had just been shot reacted at this time. After catching up, he immediately informed his companions. Although the arrow just now made Wang Sheng escape, the power of that arrow also made the expert completely understand that this degree of damage could not do anything to experts of their level. As long as they continued to inject spiritual energy into the protective suit, Wang Sheng couldn't do anything to them. Of course, Wang Sheng also heard their words. To this, Wang Sheng's reaction was to let Aki control the direction while he sat behind the snowmobile. He calmly pulled the heavy sniper crossbow in front of the expert who was chasing after them. Then, he loaded the heavy arrow and aimed directly at the expert who was chasing the fastest. "Didn't you say that heavy arrows can't hurt you? Now let's try and see if it can hurt you." The distance of 100 feet was within the range of the maximum power of the heavy sniper crossbow. Whoosh! A heavy arrow flew out. The expert in front did not say anything and immediately threw away a cane. A huge metal square shield appeared in his empty hand, firmly protecting his body. Ding! While feeling the square shield in his hand shake, everyone heard the sound of the bowstring. The speed of this heavy arrow was faster than the speed of sound. The arrowhead of the heavy arrow easily penetrated the 1-inch thick metal square shield, but before it touched the body of the expert, the arrowhead had already exploded. Boom! The shock wave of the explosion overturned another expert. Because of the material on the metal shield, there was no way to engrave a protective formation, but it also effectively resisted the explosion of the heavy arrow. It was just that this degree of explosion was far from the power of the same explosion in the body. The expert who was hit by the arrow only tumbled a few times before immediately jumping back up with vigor and vigor. It really couldn't hurt him. However, the purpose of Wang Sheng was not to hurt people, but to slow them down, and now he had succeeded. Chapter 1484. Seeing that Wang Sheng's snowmobile was getting farther and farther away, the pursuers were also very helpless. With their legendary realm cultivation, as long as they wanted to catch up, they could still close the distance. However, as long as one of them chased within 100 feet of him, Wang Sheng would calmly shoot an arrow. Heavy arrows could not hurt people, but they could effectively slow down the speed of their pursuit. With both hands holding the ski poles, there was no way to resist heavy arrows with just the body. They could only free one hand to use a shield or something else to resist, which would inevitably affect their speed. However, it was not easy for Wang Sheng to completely get rid of these masters. They were always far behind Wang Sheng and Aki's tail, keeping the same speed as the snowmobile. This was the northern glacier, also a world of ice and snow. The terrain was flat, and there was nothing else in the surroundings except white snow. The figures of Wang Sheng and Aki were too eye-catching. Even if those people were far away, it would not affect them. Anyway, as long as they knew the traces of Wang Sheng and Aki, they were not afraid of losing them. Wang Sheng changed to Aki controlled the direction and pushed the snowmobile to the extreme, crazily moving forward. These guys would definitely not give up. If they could wait here, they definitely had a backup plan. Wang Sheng had to try to pull away from them as far as possible so that he could arrange something. Unfortunately, the masters chasing him were all in the legendary realm. But this way of rushing, the consumption of their spiritual energy was very small. Although it was not as labor-saving as Wang Sheng's method, it was not a small waste. Their recovery speed could catch up with the speed of consumption, so there was no chance for Wang Sheng to completely get rid of these masters. After chasing for half a day, the sky was completely dark and it was late at night. However, whether it was Wang Sheng or the pursuers, they did not lose each other's position. The other party was still chasing, and Wang Sheng was very strange. Why did they follow so closely and not take advantage of the night to catch up? Could it be that they had a backup plan? By the next morning, Wang Sheng knew what the other party's backup plan was. In the sky, there were suddenly 3 more flying mounts, which landed far behind, picked up the masters, and flew up. The speed of the flying mounts was much faster than that of Wang Sheng, and they did not need to consume the spiritual energy of those masters at all, so it was much easier than Wang Sheng. This time, it was Wang Sheng who was at a disadvantage. No matter how fast he ran now, it was impossible for him to be faster than the flying mounts in the sky. Wang Sheng could imagine the scene of a dozen or so people sneering at the two of them from their flying mounts. He wanted to shoot the flying mounts down, but those guys were very cunning. They were flying in 3 directions, and they were more than 20 miles away from the sky. Wang Sheng wanted to shoot down the flying mounts, but those fellows were extremely crafty. They had split into 3 different directions, each one flying at a distance of 10 kilometers. They didn't care about Wang Sheng's heavy sniper crossbow at all. If he wanted to escape their pursuit, he would have to wait until nighttime when they couldn't see him and had no choice but to approach. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng's guess was wrong again. After running for another half a day, it was past 3 in the afternoon. Wang Sheng let out a long sigh and stopped the snowmobile. He told Aki to stand there and wait, and he began to carefully dismantle the snowmobile. Aki was very surprised, but she did not go against Wang Sheng's order. She obediently waited at the side. Soon she found out why. There were enemies in several directions in front of them. Thinking about it, it was normal. The other party had flying mounts, and naturally, they could easily send people to the north. As long as they knew the direction Wang Sheng had gone yesterday, it was not difficult to set up a blockade in advance. The flying Yao beasts behind him slowly approached as well. It was as though they knew that Wang Sheng would not make a move. They descended about 100 zhang behind Wang Sheng and spread out in 3 different directions. They did not try to force Wang Sheng. Instead, they simply stood there and waited. It's really not easy to have a calm chat with Duke Changsheng. Among the experts in front, an old man walked out. He had white hair and a white beard. His face looked very old, but his body was as straight as a javelin. He walked to a place 10 meters in front of Wang Sheng and stopped. He opened his hands to show that he had no evil intentions. "How did you find out my whereabouts?" Wang Sheng had already packed up the snowmobile. He stood up and asked. This was something that Wang Sheng had always been curious about. He did not leave any traces on the way. So how did the other party intercept him in advance? Aki was very nervous. She was afraid that she had exposed Wang Sheng's position. If that happened, she would not be able to redeem herself even if she died 100 times. So Aki also pricked up her ears and listened carefully, wanting to know the real reason. More than a year ago, someone saw someone go out of this uninhabited area. It happened that our people were more sensitive, so we asked, and the news we got surprised. The old man said with a smile. From all aspects, we came to the conclusion that it was Duke Changsheng and ancestor Lingxiu who went out of this area. Wang Sheng had indeed been here. That was to find a new habitat for snow carving and heavy snow. This place was inaccessible, and the climate was similar to Glacier Basin, which was suitable. At that time, Wang Sheng and the old Taoists did not pay much attention, but they did not expect to be seen. From this, We judge that there must be some arrangements made by Duke Chongsheng here. The old man still said with a smile. So from the moment Duke Chongsheng left Glacier Lake, we have been here, waiting for the day when Duke Chongsheng came. I thought it would take a few months, but I didn't expect that it would only take a month for Duke Chongsheng to come here. Aki was obviously relieved. It was not because of her that they were discovered. As long as she did not implicate Wang Sheng, Aki felt that she could let go of other big things. What is your purpose for coming here? Wang Sheng asked. We want to invite Duke Chongsheng to our house as a guest. The old man did not hide his purpose. We planned to bring Miss Lin with us, but Miss Lin was not with Duke Chongsheng. This made us very uneasy. If Duke Chongsheng doesn't mind, you could take us to find Miss Lin. His words were very polite, but there was a majesty in his tone that could not be disobeyed. This old man was definitely a big shot in a certain family. There were nearly 30 legendary masters around, which also showed that the old man was not just talking casually. The other party had laid an inescapable net, waiting for Wang Sheng, and would never give him a chance to escape. Wang Sheng looked at the old man, glanced at the masters around, and turned to look at Aki. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face. I'm very curious. Wang Sheng smiled at the other party and asked, Which family are you from? Is it convenient for you to teach me? Chapter 1485. Can't you guess it, Duke? The old man didn't answer directly. Dai family, Wang Sheng said without hesitation. At the same time, he could not stop himself from shaking his head. I knew it. Apart from our Dai clan, who else would be concerned about whether the Duke had come out or not? The old man did not deny it and admitted it. This was the extreme north of the Song family. There was no one here at all. However, this was also the extreme north of the Dai family. The Song family and Dai family were neighbors. Only they would pay attention to this place. The relationship between Wang Sheng and the Dai family was definitely not friendly. It was more accurate to describe it as hatred. The Dai family's former family head, great elder, young family head, and several other elders had all died at Wang Sheng's hands. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe this hatred as absolutely irreconcilable. Would the Dai family cooperate with Wang Sheng? Inviting Wang Sheng over was just an excuse. The real purpose was to control Wang Sheng and dig out Wang Sheng's secrets. Through Wang Sheng, they could form a relationship with Lin Ling. There was a group of people in the Dai family who were very rude to Duke before. That's why some unpleasant things happened. The old man was very patient. He didn't seem to want to use force to achieve his goal. He wanted to rely on persuasion. But please believe our family leader. He is only grateful to Duke for what you did before. He wouldn't hate you. Dai Xiao would be grateful to Wang Sheng. When Achi heard this, she wanted to laugh, but she couldn't laugh anymore. Because if she thought about it carefully, it seemed to make sense. In the Dai family, under normal circumstances, Dai Xiao was only the second young leader. If nothing else happened, at least the previous leader would live for a few more decades. Then, Dai Huan would take over. Dai Xiao definitely wouldn't have anything to do with it. Because of Wang Sheng's appearance, he had killed Dai Huan first, allowing Dai Xiao to become the true young clan head. All kinds of resources were poured into him. Even the 9-star origin soul that Dai Huan had painstakingly found was used on Dai Xiao. A few years later, the patriarch, grand elder, and so on died one after another at the hands of Wang Sheng, which led to Dai Xiao taking over. From this point of view, Dai Xiao should indeed thank Wang Sheng. The Dai family had to act like they were absolutely irreconcilable enemies with Wang Sheng, but Dai Xiao didn't think that way. Of course, the prerequisite was that Wang Sheng had to accept Dai Xiao's goodwill. Otherwise, Wang Sheng would still be the Dai family's irreconcilable enemy. Wang Sheng knew this very well, so he just nodded and didn't answer. He seemed to be thinking about something. The old man didn't rush Wang Sheng. He just waited and watched quietly. After a while, when he saw that Wang Sheng didn't seem to make any moves, he smiled and said, Duke, you don't have to think about those flying mounts. Ever since we found out that the Duke was able to control those vermin in the land of thousand extremities, we were always on guard against the possibility of the Duke controlling the demonic beasts on our side. Right now, The nearest flying mount is 10 miles away, so there's no need for you to waste your efforts. There's no need to go to the Dai family as a guest. Wang Xing seemed to know that this method wouldn't work. Since the other party was already on guard, it was naturally useless. Thus, he straightforwardly rejected the other party's suggestion. However, if it's not that important, perhaps I can tell you what you want to know. When he heard Wang Sheng's rejection, the old man's face immediately darkened. However, when he heard the latter part of the sentence, the old man didn't explode on the spot. Instead, he began to ponder. This time, it was Wang Sheng who was waiting. There was a reason for the old man's hesitation. Other clans might not be aware of this, but the Dai clan, whose status was not low, definitely knew that the royal family and the smaller powers were able to catch the last train and share the secrets of the core of the Grounds of Despair with Wang Sheng's help. Since Wang Sheng had even revealed the core secret of the Land of Thousand Extremities, the old man was sure that Wang Sheng was planning to use this information to exchange for their freedom. After all, Wang Sheng and Aki were still injured. If they were to fight, they definitely wouldn't be able to last until the end. Needless to say, Aki would definitely be the first to die. In such a situation, it was understandable to make such a choice. The old man was pondering what questions to ask in order to get an answer, which were the things that Wang Sheng had said that weren't that important. For example, the whereabouts of Lin Ling. That was definitely an important question that Wang Sheng would never answer. Even if the old man wanted to know to death, he wouldn't be the first to ask that question unless he wanted to immediately turn hostile. Even if he wanted to turn hostile, he had to wait until he knew something from Wang Sheng. Only an idiot would act immediately. After making up his mind, the old man was just about to speak when Wang Sheng took the initiative and raised 3 fingers. 3 questions. At most 3 questions. I'll leave after answering. You guys can't stop me. The old man looked around and didn't hesitate for long this time. He nodded straightforwardly. Sure. While agreeing, he waved his hand behind Wang Sheng. Seeing this, the dozen or so experts who had been chasing after Wang Sheng retreated another 1,000 feet in a very nimble manner. Not only that, but the masters who were blocking in front also retreated hundreds of meters. We've already expressed our sincerity, the old man said to Wang Sheng after all his people retreated. Are you satisfied, Duke? Please. Wang Sheng nodded and didn't waste any time. He signaled for the old man to ask his questions. Were the 24 ancestors guarding in the Land of 1,000 Despair? The old man blurted out. Although this question wouldn't take too long to find out after the formation was unlocked, knowing it first would allow them to make targeted arrangements. It was always advantageous to have the initiative. Wasted question. Wang Sheng shook his head. Under the puzzled gaze of the old man, he answered, those are 24 cultivation grounds. Each of them has a room or a small valley or something like that. The walls are engraved with certain cultivation methods. The cultivation method of each of the carvings is actually a type of cultivation direction, Wang Sheng said. It just so happens that it is the direction of cultivation after entering the legendary stage. There should be a lot of people who will be interested. However, this won't be a secret soon. You've wasted a question. Wang Sheng smiled and shook his head. Believe me, the things inside won't be taken away so easily. With so many people watching, you can't do anything even if you know. You can only wait for the parties to discuss it before you have a chance to see it. If someone asked Wang Sheng before, Wang Sheng would definitely answer that he didn't know. However, Lin Xiao had already communicated with Wang Sheng, so Wang Sheng certainly knew it clearly. The old man's face lit up when he got the answer. However, when he heard the latter part of Wang Sheng's words, he couldn't help but frown. Wang Sheng's words made sense. It was meaningless for them to know this secret in advance, because they couldn't take it away in front of so many people. They just knew about it for a while, that was all. Chapter 1486. Duke, how did you know? The old man blurted out in a moment of desperation. This is the second question. Wang Sheng stretched out 2 fingers. As you know, I took away an expert who was sealed back then. Of course, she told me. When the old man saw Wang Sheng stretch out 2 fingers, he wanted to stop. However, When Wang Sheng directly told him the answer, he felt a little helpless and could only accept the result. One more question. Wang Sheng smiled at the old man. Think carefully before you ask. Don't waste this opportunity. This time, the old man was in a difficult position. He had a lot of things to ask, but how could he find a higher priority than the secret of the place of thousand despair in such a short time? Wang Sheng did not rush him and waited patiently. He was not in a hurry, but the old man was. If he could not get some of the things he wanted to know from Wang Sheng when he was so easy to talk to, he was afraid that it would be even more difficult to get the answer in the future. Phew! The old man finally let out a long breath and asked Wang Sheng seriously, "You took away the expert who was sealed. Where did she go? Are you sure you want to ask this question?" Wang Sheng's eyes widened and reminded the old man, "Don't forget, this is the last question." "I'm sure." Seeing Wang Sheng's reaction, the old man calmed down and smiled at Wang Sheng. "This is the last question." An indescribable expression appeared on Wang Sheng's face. After holding in for a long time, he answered the old man, "I don't know." The old man was stunned and immediately realized that this was Wang Sheng's answer to this question. His expression immediately turned ugly. "You don't know?" The old man's tone also became stern, and an angry expression appeared on his face. "How can you not know the person you took away?" "But she was kidnapped midway." Wang Sheng spread out his hands without any burden and shrugged his shoulders. "Where she is now, I really don't know." "Kidnapped by who?" The old man was shocked. The #1 expert of the Lin family had been kidnapped. This was a huge matter. If he had known, he would have been the first to ask this question. "Sorry." Wang Sheng stood there calmly and shook his head. "This is the 4th question." The old man played along and made a regretful expression, as if he was really annoyed that he had asked the wrong question. "Duke, can you leak some information?" After Vex's performance, the old man turned to Wang Sheng and said sincerely, "Just a little bit of information, just a surname, and the Dai clan will be eternally grateful." Wang Sheng shook his head. "We agreed on 3 questions." "Duke, you don't have to say anything. I'll do it. As long as you nod at the right time, it'll be fine." "How about it?" The old man was not surprised. Wang Sheng was famous for keeping his word. The reason why Li Zhenfang had such a good reputation was inseparable from Wang Sheng's character. After that, the old man did not wait for Wang Sheng to nod and said to himself, "Tang? Song? Sure?" After saying his surname, he paused and waited for Wang Sheng's reaction. "I've always been a man of my word." Wang Sheng did not nod at any surname. He did not make any extra movements. He only said to the old man, "Even if it's an enemy, it's the same." The old man was not happy that he did not get the answer he wanted. Seeing Wang Sheng's obvious refusal, he pulled a long face and threatened Wang Sheng. "Duke, you..." Only nodded. "You did not go against your principles." "I can't hide this from myself." Wang Sheng shook his head. "You also know that once I go against my heart, I won't be able to improve my cultivation in the future." The old man seemed to know Wang Sheng's decision. He gave Wang Sheng a thumbs up and praised, "Duke, you never go back on your words. You're really admirable." "Don't laugh at me." Wang Sheng cupped his hands at the old man and thanked him for his praise. Fortunately, the old man let out a long sigh and seemed to be completely relaxed. "Fortunately what?" Wang Sheng leaned towards Aki and asked with a smile. This action made Aki immediately cautious. She quietly prepared everything and could act at any time. "Fortunately, I'm not like the Duke." The old man of the Dai family smiled and took a few steps back as if he did not see Wang Sheng's action. "I admire the Duke's trustworthiness, but I didn't say that I would also keep my word like Duke Changsheng." As expected, Wang Sheng said with a smile. He was not surprised at all. It would be strange if the Dai family could be as easy to talk to as the royal family. Did they have that kind of friendship? "Duke, since you've already guessed the result, why did you still answer so quickly?" The old man took a few steps back and asked Wang Sheng with a smile. At this distance, even if Wang Sheng took out the heavy sniper crossbow and ambushed him, he would not be hurt. The surrounding people had already begun to surround them again. They were not afraid that Wang Sheng would escape in the time it took to say a few words. What's more, even if he escaped, so what? The snowmobile had been dismantled. If Wang Sheng and Aki wanted to leave, they could only walk on the snowy ground on foot, not to mention flying beasts. Even if they used skis, they could surpass Wang Sheng's speed by several times. If the two of them walked for an hour first, they were confident that they could catch up. You guys are not in a hurry to make a move. It should be because you have confidence in doing things, so you can take your time. Not only can you destroy our confidence, but you can also reduce your own casualties. Wang Sheng seemed to be addicted to answering questions. He did not avoid this question and replied with a smile, right? That's right. The old man also smiled and nodded. That's what it is. Generally speaking, why do you think the weaker party is chattering with you for so long and is even willing to cooperate with you to reveal some confidential information? Wang Xing also smiled and asked, stalling for time? The old man was stunned. Then, he said with slight surprise, generally speaking, it's definitely to stall for time and wait for reinforcements. However, what are you waiting for, Duke? Reinforcements? Pointing at the sky with his right hand, the old man drew a circle in the air and said confidently, we've brought 8 flying mounts with us in this area. If there's even the slightest movement within 100 miles, we'll be alerted. There is no movement until now, so there must be no experts appearing. After saying that, the old man pointed to the snowy ground under his feet and continued, there is only white snow here, not a glacier basin. There are many beasts there, and even if there are beasts, they are not particularly strong. Moreover, there are no decent beasts within a 10-mile radius. If Duke wants to rely on controlling the beast to leave, then Duke has made a mistake. Is that so? Wang Sheng smiled and suddenly waved his hand to the sky. While white light flashed, the surrounding Dai clan members' vision blurred. Wang Sheng and Aki, who were in the encirclement, suddenly disappeared without a trace. Chapter 1487. Everyone was shocked. At this moment, a thunderous roar came from the sky, causing everyone to raise their heads. However, it was broad daylight, and there were no signs of clouds gathering. How could there be thunder all of a sudden? If Wang Sheng were to be where he was, he would definitely laugh at these guys for being ignorant. It was obviously a loud roar caused by breaking the sound barrier. How did it become thunder? Of course, it was heavy snow who could break the sound barrier. This was the fastest demon beast that Wang Sheng had seen since he came to this world. Some demon beasts that could break the sound barrier were not big in size. Mounts that could carry people did not fly very fast. The fastest was at the level of a propeller plane. Wang Sheng came to the northern polar region to look for heavy snow. As long as he had the help of heavy snow, Wang Sheng did not have to worry about being chased by any experts. To put it bluntly, just based on the speed of the escape, they could not even see the back of the car. During this frantic escape, Wang Sheng had already used the 7 words formula to summon heavy snow. He did not know where heavy snow was, but he knew that heavy snow would not stay in a small circle to play. Every day, heavy snow would fly over a large area. As long as it occasionally passed by the area with a radius of 20 to 30 miles, it would definitely feel Wang Sheng's call. For a whole day, night, and half a day, this was what Wang Sheng was doing during his escape. Finally, after being captured, he received a response from heavy snow. That was a type of ultrasonic wave that exceeded the limits of human hearing. Others could not feel it, but Wang Sheng could receive it through the resonance of the 7 words formula. Heavy snow was dozens of miles away, and it would take some time to rush over. That was why Wang Sheng had to chat with the Dai family to buy time. Finally, he waited for the moment when heavy snow arrived. Now, Wang Sheng and Aki were being held tightly by the claws of heavy snow. Aki had already fainted, and she had at most regained her 3rd stage realm cultivation. Instantly accelerating to the speed of sound was something that Aki was unable to withstand, and this was the result of Wang Sheng's spiritual chi protection. Wang Sheng was not in a good state either, but he was in a much better state than Aki. His strong body had withstood the terrifying acceleration of nearly 50 G, and he was still feeling a little dizzy. The heavy snow was pure white to begin with. With a flap of the wings, The two of them were completely covered, which was almost the same as the surrounding snowy landscape. Coupled with their fast speed, they were a mile away from their original spot in a second. This was also why he and Aki could instantly escape from the sight of so many experts. Thump! Thump! The sounds of two people falling to the ground attracted the attention of the Dai family. Of the two legendary experts on the right of the old man, one was clutching his neck, and the other was unresponsive and directly fell to the snow. After falling to the ground, two streams of blood appeared, but only a little flowed out and was frozen into blood clots by the low temperature here. Everyone was shocked again, and the companions beside them hurriedly rushed over to check. After looking for a while, the two companions who were checking stood up and shook their heads. There was no hope. One of the experts' neck was cut in half by something, and the other had a small hole more than 3 inches deep on his head, which went straight through his brain. He was already dead. Wang Sheng and Aki were already 5 miles away at this moment. Heavy Snow's claws loosened, and Wang Sheng and Aki instantly began to descend. But after descending for less than 3 meters, they fell onto the back of Heavy Snow. Wang Sheng immediately grabbed a thick feather of Heavy Snow, and only then was he able to sit firmly on the back of Heavy Snow. Everyone in the Dai family didn't know how the two experts died, but Wang Sheng saw it clearly. One of the feathers of Heavy Snow's wings cut through the throat of one guy at high speed like a blade, and Heavy Snow's sharp beak pecked the head of the other expert at lightning speed. Wang Sheng didn't need to see the result to know that those two guys were dead for sure. Heavy Snow, thank you. Wang Sheng patted the Heavy Snow under him to express his gratitude. Heavy Snow happily let out a long cry. Wang Sheng and Heavy Snow had played together many times, and of course he could hear that this was the sound of Heavy Snow expressing joy. This long cry made everyone on the ground realize that there might be flying beasts in the air, but when they looked up, they could only see a small black dot. They couldn't see the whole picture of Heavy Snow at all. The distance was too far, and they didn't have good vision like Wang Sheng. Heavy Snow, hurry back and kill them, Wang Sheng said to Heavy Snow again. Those guys knew the secret of the core of Ground of Despair, but this wasn't a big deal. They would find out sooner or later anyway. What was important was that they knew that Lin Ling and Lin Xiao were kidnapped, and this secret couldn't be known in a short period of time. It was good to buy more time for Lin Xiao to recover. The high-speed flying Heavy Snow didn't have the slightest objection. It was originally at the top of the food chain in the glacier basin, and hunting was just instinct. Killing people and killing beasts made no difference to Heavy Snow. It was just hunting. After making a circle far away, Heavy Snow easily flew back. If it was Heavy Snow's habit, it could be faster, but considering that Wang Sheng couldn't handle it, it made a circle. It was still in a supersonic state, sweeping past the two masters on the ground at high speed. This kind of speed was like a heavy sniper crossbow, and ordinary masters couldn't see it at all. They could only face it and prepare in advance. However, Heavy Snow attacked from behind, and Heavy Snow's ability to hide its aura was much better than theirs. By the time they discovered it, it was already too late to dodge. This time, it was even more ruthless. Heavy Snow's blade-like feathers directly slashed across the waists of the two people, directly cutting them into 4 pieces. They didn't die immediately, but the vitality and toughness brought about by their strong cultivation became the source of their pain. Shrill screams resounded through the area. Wang Sheng didn't stay idle either. He hugged Aki with one hand and grabbed the feathers to stabilize his body, while the other hand shot the heavy sniper crossbow directly at the opposite master. Similarly, he was caught off guard. The opponent didn't expect the attack to come from this direction, and by the time he reacted, it was already too late. He raised his palm in time to block the heavy arrow, and it didn't directly hit his throat. However, his gloved palm couldn't completely block it. The heavy arrow, coupled with the initial speed bonus of Heavy Snow, was even more powerful. It penetrated his palm with great force and exploded less than an inch in front of his throat. Boom! The fragments of the explosion flew everywhere. Although it didn't cause any fatal damage to the master, a few holes were pierced in his eyes by the fragments of the explosion at such a close distance. The master screamed, covered his eyes, and rolled on the snowy ground. In the blink of an eye, 3 masters were crippled. The 2 who were cut in half at the waist definitely couldn't be saved. Their companions nearby sighed and went over to end their pain. Masters with eyes injured would definitely die in this world of ice and snow if they didn't have companions to help them. Flying mounts. As the leader, the old man didn't panic and immediately ordered the remaining subordinates to act. Wang Sheng was just using the power of flying mounts, and Wang Sheng wasn't the only one with flying mounts. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.